Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 16th, 2019 special meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We are delighted to have each of you with us this evening, and at this time we would ask that Ms. LaMagna give us a roll call.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Traeger.
Here.
Commissioner Delgado. Commissioner May.
Here.
Commissioner Gilliland.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here.
Second.
We have a motion to excuse Commissioner Delgado and a second.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 6-0. Now move on to item number 3, City Clerk.
And this is the evidentiary hearing on the proposed panhandling ordinance. Attorney Michael Kahn to present. During this time, testimony and evidence will be considered by the City Commission. The City Commission may ask questions of those testifying before them. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kahn.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Good afternoon. Once again, Michael Kahn, 482 North Harbor City Boulevard, Melbourne, Florida, 32935. And I'm special counsel, and I have the privilege of being special counsel to the City of Daytona Beach for the consideration of an ordinance that is going to propose to regulate panhandling as defined therein. This is a continuation, as Madam Clerk has said, of the evidentiary hearing, and as I understand it, there's going to be a first reading of the ordinance on January 23rd, I think, and then a second reading of the ordinance, I believe, on February 6th. So I would like to begin tonight's evidentiary hearing by calling Mr. Ron Cagle. Please swear in Mr. Cagle, Madam Court Reporter. Mr. Cagle, for the first of all, would you spell your last name for the record?
K-A-G-L-E.
And would you please state your full name to the Commission?
Ronald E. Cagle.
And Mr. Cagle, by whom are you employed, sir?
City of Daytona Beach.
And in what department?
Public Works, Grounds Maintenance.
And how would you describe your job to the Commission?
Basically to oversee all day-to-day operations of the Grounds Maintenance Division.
And how long have you been so employed, Mr. Cagle?
29 years.
Now, in your 29 years as being employed do you have a job title, by the way?
Maintenance Supervisor 3.
In your job as Maintenance Supervisor 3, are you, in essence, second in command of that department?
Currently first in command.
Okay. And who is your immediate supervisor?
David Waller.
Okay. In your job as first in command of the department, do you have occasion to travel about the city of Daytona Beach, sir?
Daily.
In your 29 years, what other parts of employment, in other words, you weren't always Maintenance Supervisor 3 in charge of this department, were you?
No.
Okay, would you please describe to the Commission what other jobs you held within the department, generally speaking, if you could sequentially, Ron?
Just started in 1989 as a Maintenance Worker 1, and then progressively worked my way up as a maintenance worker, equipment operator. I think I took my current position in 1994, and I've been in it since.
Okay. Now, in your goings and comings throughout the city of Daytona Beach, Mr. Cagle, have you had the opportunity to see firsthand the effects, and I'm not saying negative or positive, but the effects of panhandling?
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all, I'll define for you in short order, in other words, short form, panhandling pursuant to the ordinances, roughly, but including but not limited to, once an individual has been solicited or panhandled, and after a refusal, the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you ever, in your goings and comings, seen citizens, tourists, any other individuals, including employees, including yourself, being aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Would you please describe, first of all, have you yourself ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Would you please describe to the commission, well, let me ask this way, as a predicate, on more than one instance have you been aggressively panhandled, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Would you just pick an anecdote and describe to the commission an anecdote where you yourself were aggressively panhandled? And thank you.
This one that comes to mind is on the corner of ISB and Nova. Just sitting at the red light, they'll come right to the truck and beat on the window and ask for money. I tend to ignore them, trying to stay out, cause any trouble. But they'll beat on that window, and they'll stand right there, so close you really can't even drive off. You'll hit them with the mirror.
Have you ever? When's the last time that's happened to you?
Probably a couple weeks ago.
Have you, in other instances, in my definition, have you, in the ordinance's definition, been aggressively panhandled as well?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen or been cursed at by a panhandler after you have refused to give him or her money?
Yes.
Can you recall any one anecdote of that you would tell the commission, please?
That same instance, he was beating on the window pretty hard, saying, you have a city job, you have money. And I told him to, put the window down and said, get away. And he said, F you, gave me the finger, and then walked away.
Have you ever visually observed, Mr. Cagle, any other citizens of Daytona Beach being aggressively panhandled?
A lot.
Okay. Would you please just pick an anecdote and relate it, if you can, to the City Commission about any other firsthand observation about other individuals being aggressively panhandled?
It happens quite a bit on the corner of ISB and Ridgewood. There's a lot of panhandling going on there, and they will come to the vehicles and beat on them. And you can see the people put the windows down and yell back at them. I've even seen them throw trash and cups in the car, retaliating because they didn't get any money. It happens all the time.
Have you ever seen, in your goings and comings, doing your job as a maintenance supervisor 3 for the city of Daytona Beach, effects of on customers of businesses who are being panhandled or aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Would you please describe any one anecdote of that to the commission that you can recall?
Oh, there's a ton. Beach Street.
Just pick one, if you can recall anything specific.
Defecating on the front doorstep of the yogurt shop.
You saw a panhandler do that?
I didn't see him do it, but he did that several times in a row. I guess.
How did you hear about that?
We got called by, I forget his name, the owner,
Okay.
to come down and clean it up.
What's the name of the business, sir?
Rocco's Yogurt.
Okay. And so you got, okay. And so what did the owner or the individual who called you say to you about what happened?
Just he's back and he's done it again, and he wanted some help to clean it up.
And from the perspective of the person who talked to you, was that a known panhandler? Was that
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
We go give him a hand.
Okay. And specifically speaking, tell the commission of your own firsthand observation, what did you do to clean up that particular defecation?
We have a guy that travels the whole city, and we bought him a water truck just for this certain reason, and we'll call him. He'll come down and throw dirt on it, try to mask the smell and the looks of it, and then eventually turn it into dirt or sand, pick it up, hose it off, and then pour some bleach to try and kill the scent and whatnot.
Who is that individual?
John Tucker.
Okay. Is Mr. Tucker your go-to guy for such things?
Yeah, he roams the whole city, so he's the one I call.
To clean up the open defecation?
Yes, he does a lot of different things, but that's one of his jobs.
And what are some of Mr. Tucker's jobs, if you would, Mr. Cagle?
All kinds of things like tree branches blocking signs. He takes care of the pots on Beach Street, weeding them, watering them. He will assist other crews in their daily duties. Just anything we need, we go to John.
Have you ever seen in your job as maintenance supervisor 3, and I'm saying seen, firsthand observation, known panhandlers openly urinate?
Yes.
Would you please describe, let me back up and ask the question on how many instances?
Quite a few.
Okay, would you please describe any one anecdote of what you saw to the commission, if you would?
One that really was kind of weird was a guy in a wheelchair on a corner of Steak and Shake, ISB and Nova. Just right on the sidewalk, right by the light pole where you change the light. Just pulled it out and did it right there.
Was that
in his
on,
wheelchair?
Was that on the light pole?
Yeah.
You urinated on the light pole?
Yeah.
Now, you weren't there for the public hearing, were you, on December the 12th? Or were you here?
No.
Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you
Not the whole thing, but I've heard bits and pieces of it.
Okay. Did you see Dr. Miles testify as to the effect on the young, the infirm, and the aged, including children, about open urination? Did you see that?
I believe I did.
Okay. Have you ever seen, in your goings and comings as maintenance supervisor 3 since roughly 1994, you said, sir? Is that right?
Yes.
Known panhandlers who had pets without licenses?
All the time.
And by what are these pets, how are they attached, in essence, to the panhandler?
Some of them aren't, but a lot of them just have rope around them.
With no licenses?
Most of them don't, no.
Okay. Okay. And you may not, do you recall, did you see any part of Dr. Miles' testimony about diseases that are transmitted by unlicensed, meaning that don't have shots, of pets to humans, including children? Did you see that testimony?
Not word for word, but I've heard of it.
Has anybody in this town, okay, we'll start with any customers of any businesses who live here, do you know of anybody or employers or employees ever told you that the panhandlers induced fear in those people? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
Would you give any one anecdote that you can recall to the commission of any time you've ever seen fear-induced or heard about it from any citizen or tourist in Daytona Beach?
Again, on Beach Street, the store owners will call. It'll start with they're leaving trash or beer cans or whatever, but then they'll get aggressive and start beating on the doors. They'll have to lock their door.
You mean the business owners?
Yeah,
will?
the business owners.
Do you get those calls? Or are they brought into the department with you?
They come, I think they come into Public Works first and they get filtered to us.
Is there anything or any one anecdote regarding panhandling that you've ever heard of or experienced personally, other than that which we've discussed here, that that you would like to relate to the commission that we haven't covered?
There's so many. I could go on and on. You know, I work all the special events, so I'm out all time of the night, so I see a lot.
Did you ever work on or are you familiar with the boardwalk?
Absolutely.
Okay. Questions about the boardwalk and anything you've seen, heard, smelled, okay, and here's the questions. Have you ever seen on the benches, you know the benches that line the boardwalk? Mm-hmm. Have you ever been, in walking by that or with any of your crews, have you ever smelled the smell of open urination?
Yes.
And how do you respond? Do you respond when called to clean up open urination and open defecation? Is that the way it is? Mm-hmm. Have you seen panhandlers on the boardwalk?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had any experience with from any? How many employees do you supervise, sir?
Right now, around 50.
Do you have any? Have you had any experience through any one of your employees who have told you, or of yourself personally, with having known panhandlers even openly defecate or openly urinate on the benches on boardwalk or on the Breakers Park? Have you known about any of that?
Yes, I have one squat and shit right on a bench on the boardwalk.
When was that?
Probably about a year ago.
Okay. And this was a known panhandler?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And what did you do? How did you have to clean that up? Was that Mr. Tucker?
Called my old buddy, John.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever had experience as a maintenance supervisor 3 since 1994, Mr. Cagle, in having to be careful of known panhandlers discarding needles and other things in, for example, the pots where the plants are located in the city of Daytona Beach?
Yeah, they do. They use the pots as ashtrays, and John learned that firsthand. He was weeding one time and came across a needle and a razor blade. So ever since then, he's had to go to a shovel. You don't put your hands in there anymore because they're up and down there all the time, and they use our pots as ashtrays.
And when you're saying they, are you talking about known panhandlers?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing further. I'm going to tender this witness to the City Commission for any questions that you all may have of Mr. Cagle, and I thank you for your testimony, Mr. Cagle.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Cagle? Thank you. Commissioner.
About how many incidents per week do you think you all deal with on a weekly basis?
Average 2. Maybe more, but I would say 2.
Okay.
That's it. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
When you say 2, are you talking about 2 of open defecation and open urination?
It could be either or.
Okay.
Lately, it's been shitting.
Okay.
I have a question.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. Excuse me, sir. We're looking at sanitation issues. So, where are they close to restrooms? Not close to restrooms?
No, you could find it anywhere. Lately, we have moved PD into a building on Orange and Nova, and they have. I'll quit that language. They have defecated on the back wall about 5 times so far,
Okay.
right by the entrance door.
Your wife's gonna yell at you when you get home.
So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
They love our alleyways on Beach Street. They go on the walls. For some reason, I guess it's hard to squat, so they back up against the wall, and then it runs down the wall.
Okay. Thank you.
And I have a follow-up question for that, Mr. Mayor. And when you say they, are you're talking about people who have been identified by you or Mr. Tucker as known panhandlers?
Yes.
Okay. And is it because of the fact that besides your firsthand observance of what you've testified to about panhandlers, is it because of your experience in 29 years, Mr. Cagle, that you can say that what you've seen has occurred by panhandlers, if you understand my point?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't have any further questions for this witness, Mr. Mayor.
All right. No further questions from us. Thank you again.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Cagle. I'd like my next witness to call Mr. John Tucker.
Bob, do we need to recognize Commissioner Delgado, because we'd excused his absence earlier?
That makes good sense for the record. We have the record reflect that Commissioner Delgado arrived
516. 516. I wrote it down.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to recognize Commissioner Delgado's attendance at 5:16 p.m.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Yes, sir.
May it please the commission and Mr. Mayor, thank you. Would you please, first of all, be sworn? I was going to.
You solemnly swear the testimony you are giving this class should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
Yes, I do. So help me God.
Would you please state your full name to the commission, Mr. Tucker?
John Powell Tucker III,
Okay. And where are you presently employed?
City of Daytona Beach,
And as what? What are you employed as, Mr. Tucker?
maintenance worker 3.
You heard Mr. Cagle describe you as his go-to guy, didn't you?
Yeah, nice.
How many years have you been a maintenance worker 3?
I just got promoted. It's about 6 months.
How long have you worked entirely for the city of Daytona Beach, Mr. Tucker?
About 13 years.
Now, you lived here for quite a while, haven't you?
All my life.
And you love your city, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Talk about your lineage for a moment. When I was very impressed to learn about your dad, and I want to put some things on the record about him. Please tell the commission your father's name.
James Henry Tucker,
And I'm sure they
known as Jim Tucker.
I'm sure they all know him. Just to underscore your devotion to your town and your families, what was your father's profession?
Well, his last profession was Judge Flagler County.
Okay. And before that, what was he?
Started out Sheriff of Volusia County,
And was he the youngest sheriff ever elected in Volusia County?
as far as I know.
And approximately what age was he when he was elected sheriff of Volusia County?
Probably 26, something like that.
And what other profession did he hold?
City attorney at Daytona Beach, and lawyer, and judge. Yes. Not actually, probably a sitting judge, but he was getting sworn in Flagler.
And he died a hero, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Please tell the commission and on this record what he was doing when he passed away.
He was fishing like a lot of us like to do, and they were in a boat. A little girl fell in the water, and he jumped in to get her. He pushed her in the boat, and then he had a heart attack and went under.
And he passed away. How old was he then?
49.
Now, Mr. Tucker, in your employment with the city of Daytona Beach, who is your direct supervisor, sir?
Probably Bobby Butler. I have a couple of supervisors because I'm a floater.
Okay.
So-
Is Mr. Cagle also your supervisor?
He's the main supervisor.
Okay. In your employment as a maintenance worker 3 for the city of Daytona Beach, Mr. Tucker, do you often travel the roads and streets and boardwalk of Daytona Beach?
All the way from LPGA to the ocean.
In your travels along the streets and byways and everywhere in the city of Daytona Beach, have you ever seen the effects, I'm not saying positive or negative, have you ever seen the effects of panhandling?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen, I'll define for you aggressive panhandling in kind of a shorthand as it's defined in the ordinance. It's that a person, after refusing a panhandling solicitation, persists. Okay, do you understand that definition?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Have you ever seen, first of all, have you yourself ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Okay, would you please, on how many occasions?
Probably 3 or 4.
Okay. Would you please describe to the City Commission any one of those occasions and what constituted the aggressive panhandling?
Well, just, approach the vehicle.
Was this a city vehicle or no?
I've been approached in my private vehicle also.
Okay, go ahead.
And then, tell them no, and then there's like, give them $1. Another guy will come up and say, give me $1 too. How come? Then they almost get in a fight over how come you're helping him and not me? And it's like, wait a second,
They almost got to drive off. And then I've been in my vehicle where they've approached me, and I said I can't give any money because I'm at work, and they're like, well, you're with the city and you're obligated or you're privileged or something like that, and I'm like, no, and then they've cussed me out, and I've been cussed out by the same guy a few times.
Whereabouts is this? Tell the city commission.
That was Beach Street and Bay Street.
Excuse me?
Beach Street and Bay Street.
Okay. Have you ever... now, one of the jobs that Mr. Cagle described that you do, Mr. Tucker, is to clean the pots where the plants are, correct? What is your job? Please describe to the City Commission what you do when you do that and where you do it.
Well, I take care of the plants, make sure they're living, they get water, they get fertilizer, they're not pulled up. I've actually watched guys in front of Atlantic Sounds walk down the sidewalk. That was another time, I forgot about that one. But he just walked down the sidewalk and just pulling the plants out for no reason. So I had to go behind him and replant them.
Now, are you talking, when you say this guy, is he a person that you've observed as a panhandler?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
I could describe him, but I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Because I know he's a local, I don't know if he's local, but he's here all the time. Yeah, because when I dig in these pots, I find all kinds of stuff.
Like?
There's throw up in them. I found razor knives, regular knives, needles. So when I dig in there now, I have a little claw that I dig in there first when I first start digging. I never know what I'm going to find in there.
Let me talk a little bit more in definiteness about these things. First of all, have you ever found any such items on the boardwalk?
No, there's not any plants over there.
Okay. Have you ever seen any known panhandler or been told that any known panhandler has openly defecated on or near the boardwalk?
Have I been told that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the public.
By the public?
Yeah.
Okay. Please, has that been on more than one occasion?
All the time.
Okay.
And they say, I won't come back to the city till you clean this up, and why don't you do something about it? I'm like, it's not my job.
Okay. Now, when they are saying that, the members of the public, they are describing panhandlers doing this?
Mm-hmm. That was at Breakers Park. I get that a lot.
Have you ever yourself seen a panhandler openly defecate?
I've seen them urinate, yes.
Okay. Please describe to the commission any instance in which you've seen, just anything that comes to mind, an anecdote that you saw a panhandler, a known panhandler to you that you've observed openly urinate.
One time, just south of the News Journal, there's like a little island there with some plants in there, and I was cleaning it out because they want to stash their backpacks and stuff in there. So I was cleaning that out, and the guy came in there and said, "That's my stuff." I'm like, "Well, here you go. You can have it, but don't leave it in here." And he said, "Well, this is where I live and stuff." So and then he goes inside those bushes there.
And you saw him openly urinate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the plants that you found the needles in and the razor blade and whatever else you found, you mentioned knives. Where are they located, Mr. Tucker?
In the pots.
No, I know. That one you got me on. Okay. But where are the transcription of that we can submit to a legal journal. That's good. I like that.
Along Beach Street and Main Street.
Beach Street and Main Street? Okay. Have you ever been able to, either by somebody telling you or visibly seeing it, to relate that to being put there by panhandlers?
I've actually watched them put it in there. Like if a police was going to arrest them or something. Okay. And I've actually watched them discard on US 1 too, walking down the sidewalk by the 7-Eleven.
And
just throw a needle out, just drop it right there in front, waiting on a bus.
Okay. Have you ever observed, we talked about you having endured aggressive panhandling, and you basically testified about that. Have you ever visibly seen any other individuals at an intersection or otherwise have to endure aggressive panhandling?
yeah, I've seen the public get approached.
Okay, would you please describe to the commission any one anecdote about that?
One time that stood out was on ISB and US 1. I guess one guy went up and asked for some money, and then another guy came up and said, "Give me some money too," and then they almost started fighting over how much money they were getting from this person in their vehicle. And it made the person in that vehicle very nervous, and I could have videotaped it, but...
Oh, you did?
No, I could have, but
Yeah.
I'm videotaping and driving at the same time. So.
Have you as well seen known panhandlers with pets?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it without licenses with pets?
I don't know if they have a license or not.
Okay. What have you seen tying the pet down?
What do you mean tying them down?
Well, what I mean linked to the
just
pen.
just a leash.
Okay.
Drag them around. But
Is there any other anecdote of things you observed or things that you were told about the effects of panhandling, or were told that you want to relate to the commission?
well, like I said earlier, I think I said, just see, I see the tourists and stuff say, do something about this, and we're not coming back. That's the actual words. We won't come back.
Are they saying that? Do they evidence that because it frightens them?
Well, yeah, because they've been approached. We have people at breakers. These guys act like they want to help them with the meters, and then they scam them for the meters and say, "Well, I just helped you figure out this meter, so why don't you give me some money?" And these people feel obligated, and they're just like pressed, like obligated to give them money because it's kind of weird.
I don't have anything further. No questions, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to tender this witness to the commission with just a parting point, and that is, I think your dad would be proud of you for your testimony, your devotion to this town.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Wait a second, Mr. Tucker. You're not
No
off
one
the
else?
hot seat yet.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. My next witness is going to be, is Oliver here? Come on up.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about giving this cause to the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am. Would you please state your full name for the record?
Oliver Ross, Sr.
And Mr. Ross, where do you currently reside?
128 Kingbird Circle, Daytona Beach.
How long have you resided, Mr. Ross, in Daytona Beach?
6 years.
And are you presently a business owner?
Yes, sir.
And what business do you own, sir?
On the Crab Stop on International Speedway and 240 MLK Boulevard.
So you have 2 locations in Daytona Beach?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Ross, on the ISB location, how many employees do you have?
25.
In the MLK Boulevard location, how many employees do you have?
5.
Now, I'm going to just go back and kind of revisit your business history, Mr. Ross, because it's quite a success story. Mm-hmm. So, how long have you owned any Crab Stop?
10 years.
And what was the first one you owned?
On MLK, 240 MLK Boulevard. That was the original.
That was the original one?
Yes,
and then you bought the one on ISB?
Yes.
And then what other ones did you buy?
We have one in Vero Beach, one in Sebastian, Florida, and one in Miami, Florida.
Is the one in, do you still own all of those?
Well, actually, two of them, the Vero store and the Sebastian store, they actually franchised. They bought franchises from us.
Okay. Sebastian's right in my neck of the woods. I got to visit that one then.
Yeah, it's nice.
Now, as far as the ISB location and your employees, and you've owned that location for how long, I'm sorry?
A little bit over 7 years now.
As far as that location, have you, of your own firsthand knowledge, Mr. Ross, firsthand observation, seen the effects, and I'm not saying positive or negative, but have you seen any effects of panhandling?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll define for you, kind of in shorthand fashion, the phrase aggressive panhandling as panhandling when a person refuses the panhandle, that the panhandler presses on and continues the request. Do you understand that definition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, have you yourself ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you please describe to the Commission any instance in which you yourself have been aggressively panhandled?
Well, like pretty much everybody else said, that traffic lights, they come up and try to get money from you. Actually, even on the property, just walking up to the building, you have certain ones that come up try to get money from you. You tell them no, and they may curse you out, something like that.
You've been cursed out yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At the traffic lights, in my definition of once a person refuses, in this instance you,
right.
Okay, the panhandler persists, would you tell the Commission any one anecdote about that you can recall?
Yes, I had one where I refused to give them money, and they got in front of the car. Like, you're not moving. So I just had to blow the horn. They got it one way.
Where was that?
That was actually ISB in Nova Road.
ISB in what?
Nova Road.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Have you had any of your 25 employees, any one of them? Well, first of all, let me ask it this way. Have you yourself firsthand observed any panhandler who aggressively panhandled any one of your customers or your employees?
Yeah, I periodically I sit in the car and I, traffic watch and watch how the flow of the customers coming in and out of the restaurant. And this particular day I was sitting in the car and one of the panhandlers, a customer was pulling up and they came up to the car, knocking on the window, and the customer drove away.
Okay. So, drove away before he came in your premise?
Yeah, they didn't get out the car. They just drove away.
Have you ever had any customers tell you that they're fearful of panhandlers, or have you lost business because of the panhandling on your business premise at ISB?
Yes, we have. We got our regulars come in. A lot of elderly come in, ladies come in, and sometimes they have told me, "You need to do something about the guys out there, asking for money." And they say they'll never come again. So we start having the guys. We got some big guys working the kitchen, y'all. So we started getting them to escort some of the ladies out if they fearful. So
you have your own staff escorting people out?
Yeah, sometimes if they're scared of it.
Yeah. Have you ever had some of your smaller employees, evidence any fear of being or tell you about being aggressively panhandled?
Yeah, we have an area where they congregate, like when they're off or on break, and
you're talking about your employees.
Employees, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And they had certain panhandlers. They have came over and asked for money, and they say no, and they arguing back and forth, and the other guys they come out and they leave.
The bigger guys.
The bigger guys they come out they leave. So.
Okay. Now, we talked about aggressive panhandling. Have you ever, just in your goings and comings about the city, ever been just panhandled? Meaning that just somebody asking you for money, but not aggressively asking you.
Yeah.
Have you ever visited the boardwalk?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen panhandlers on the boardwalk?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been panhandled on the boardwalk?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen other people being panhandled on the boardwalk? Yes. Have you ever visibly seen people on the boardwalk being aggressively panhandled?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you describe any of that visual observation to the commission? Any one anecdote, Mr.
Yeah,
Ross?
I actually seen a lady and her kids. She was walking with her kids, holding their hand, and panhandler came up to them, like really trying to get the money from her or asking, and the kids just hugging the mother or auntie or whatever she was. And she was pretty scared, so I seen that.
Have you ever seen on the boardwalk or any other place any known panhandler or a person known panhandler to you openly urinate or defecate?
No.
Okay. Have you ever heard anybody tell you that goes on in your city?
Yes.
Who told you this?
I know a lot of people that work for the city, so they have the stories that they tell. So.
Have you ever seen panhandlers in your goings and comings around the city that have pets?
Yes.
Are they generally dogs, if you know?
Yeah, I don't see any cats, but a lot of
Okay.
dogs. Some lions too, but
I don't even
Just kidding.
I don't want to go down that route. That's what I call aggressive panhandling. If somebody has a lion with them, that's Mr. Mayor, I don't have any further questions for Mr. Ross. I want to tender him to the commission for any questions that you all may have.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Ross? No questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Chris, come on up there.
Hello, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
If you would swear me.
You solemnly swear the testimony about giving this caution, the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Would you please tell your full name to the commission?
My name is Christos Mavronis,
And for the record, would you please spell your last name?
M-A-V as in Victor, R-O-N-A-S as in Sam.
Mr. Mavronis, where do you presently reside?
600 Poinsettia Road, Daytona Beach, Florida.
How long have you lived in Daytona Beach, sir?
24 years.
Okay. Are you presently a business owner?
Yes.
And would you please tell the commission what business or businesses you own?
Well, I own the Steve's Famous Diner on the beachside, 2011 North Atlantic Avenue. I did own the one on Bevel and Nova. It was my father's before me. And currently, my sister operates that store. I turned it over to her. So it's still in the family. We also own a location in Oak Hill, Florida. I have owned other locations in the area, but I recently sold them and let them go.
How long was the business premise at North Atlantic, 2011 North Atlantic? Was that your first one?
No, Bevel was my first one.
Okay. How long have you owned the one or built the one in 2011 at 2011 North Atlantic?
2011 I opened it, so approximately 8 years.
Okay. How many employees do you have there?
20.
Now, Mr. Mavronis, I'm going to describe to you the definition in shorthand of aggressive panhandling. Aggressive panhandling is including but not limited to when a person's panhandled and refused that the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition?
Yes.
Okay, have you ever yourself been aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Okay, would you please describe to the commission the instance in which you were aggressively panhandled?
Outside of the restaurant, I was on the boardwalk and I was aggressively panhandled. I was with my son and my wife. And
would you describe
so
actually
what happened was we went to he likes to play arcade games. So we went to game time. They weren't open yet. So we said, let's go to the boardwalk. They have an arcade there. I was a little tentative at first because I knew about the stories of the boardwalk. There's like some creepy people down there and they're bothering people. So I said, let's give it a shot. So we go And we go inside the arcade, and I'm, playing whatever. A gentleman comes up to me, asks me if I have a couple dollars because he's down and out, this and that. I said, no, I don't have $2 because my $2 is going to my son so he can play the arcade games. So he said, all right. He went like this. He turned back around. He goes, man, can I just get $1? How about $1? Can I get $1? And then I said, dude, I don't have $1. Can you please, I'm with my family, please leave me alone. He goes into some story about how people like me and this and that and the other. He thought I was a tourist. And, he's like, well, you should go back where you came from or whatever. I'm like, look, I live here. Okay, so I'm not going, how about you take a walk, whatever. But then the gentleman that was collecting the coin, the guy that walks around, the attendant, he asked him to leave, and the guy eventually left. Now, I don't want to go back there no more because it scared my kid was like looking like,
Now, when did that occur? First of all, how old's your son?
He's 6 years old.
Of your 20 employees, have you ever seen or been confronted with aggressive panhandling outside your business premise?
Yes.
Would you please describe to the commission one of those instances?
Okay, several months ago, working, we're going through a lunch. It's busy, people coming in and out. I noticed a gentleman outside my restaurant because we have like outside patio seating, and there's the front door, and there was a gentleman like pacing back and forth in front of the restaurant. So I noticed him, I'm just like waiting to see what he's eventually going to do. So a customer comes up, he approaches the customer, he starts going like this to the customer. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy is a panhandler. So the customer came in, and she shook her head, she sat down, whatever. So then I didn't wait for another customer to come up. So I went outside, and I said, is there something I can do for you? What do you, like, can I help you with something? He's like, look, man, I'm just hungry. The down and out story I got. And he then said, can you like hook me up with a couple of dollars, I'm like, no, I don't have no money, and can you please, I prefer that you leave right now because I don't want you in front of my restaurant, like asking my customers for a couple of dollars. You scare the customers. We have a lot of elderly people that come to the restaurant, and they get scared, they see a guy out there, looking all crazy, whatever. So he said, okay, I got you, man. It's cool. So he left. 10 minutes go by. Here he is again. He come back in front of the restaurant. He start pacing back and forth, this and that. I go outside. I said, look, man, I told you, you can't come here and do this in front of my restaurant. He came at me, like sized me up, put his face in my face, and said, I'm going to do what I want because it's my right, whatever. I said, look, this is my private property. This isn't a sidewalk. You're scaring my customers. Please leave. He headbutt me, and I held him, and I said, look, stop. We don't have to do this. I just held him. I didn't do anything.
And did he eventually leave?
Eventually he left.
And let me ask you this.
But no violence, and I just said, whoa, because the guy, he hit me with his head, like that.
Was there ever a time with this individual or any other individuals who are panhandling that you actually gave them food?
Yes. They'll say, let me just get something to eat. I say, okay, I'll bring you some bread and soup. I'll bring them some bread and soup, and they'll leave, but then they'll come back. And this is for the other location, too, like on Bevel Road. That happens all the time on Bevel. Probably a little bit more than Beachside up that way. But, yeah.
How many employees does the Bevel Road establishment have?
Approximately 20, the same.
Do your employees, any of your 20 employees, ever talk to you about the effects of panhandling on them?
Yes.
And tell the commission what they say with regard to any one instance that you can recall that they were panhandled or any of their statements about the effects that panhandling has on them.
Okay, when they come to work, they come in their vehicle, they park in the restaurant and in the parking lot, and some of them sometimes they're in the parking lot and they'll canvass the customers in the parking lot. And one of my employees, they knocked on, like he was saying, same thing. They knock on the window, so because sometimes the employees, they'll sit in their car and they get ready, they're trying to get, I guess, psychologically ready to come to work or do their makeup or whatever, right? So the panhandlers, they'll go looking in the cars, They see someone in the car, they're like, so one of my employees, I think it was Melanie, but she came in and she's like, look, this guy scared the crap out of me. He's knocking on my window asking me for money. She was scared. It scares people. It scares people. It scared me. That guy headbutted me. I got scared. Why? I understand, these guys, it's like their civil rights to ask for money. I get that. But, we got rights too. As a business owner, as an employee of a business, we got rights too. We're human. We're human beings. We're serving the community. We're doing the right thing. Why should we have to tolerate, I just don't understand, like, how we don't have no rights. Like, they're allowed to.
Let me ask you a question.
They're allowed to panhandle in front.
Well, let me just ask you the next question, okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. The question I have is, have you ever had customers who faced anything that what you've described to the commission, and have said to you that they're not coming back?
Yes.
Okay.
There was the one time where a customer was eating in the restaurant, and she waved me over, and she said to me, look, Chris, this is the second time I came here. You need to go outside and check out what's going on out there, because there's a guy walking around in the parking lot, like, trying to talk to your customers. I said, okay. She goes, but this is like a problem, because people are losing business over this throughout the whole city. But this wasn't like this like 10 years ago. I didn't know it. Like, it seems like it's been more over the last year or 2 years. Like, all of a sudden, like, it's kind of strange, like, all of a sudden. Because I've been doing this a long time, and when I was on Bevel back in 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, we didn't see this like this in this city.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever, yourself in your goings and comings, we've already talked about you being panhandled and you being aggressively panhandled, have you ever seen or evidence of any panhandlers who've either openly urinated or openly defecated?
I've never witnessed that, but it's like a known thing.
Well, when you say that, let me break that down a little bit, and let me ask it this way. One second.
Oh, there's a guy outside the McDonald's up there on Beachside next to Planet Fitness. He blocks the people in the drive-thru. He's like in a wheelchair. It's not funny or nothing, but he's in a wheelchair and he blocks the people before they get out. I know, because when I go to the gym, I walk out of the gym, and sometimes I go on my bike, and I see him sitting there, and the guy's beeping his horn. A couple weeks ago, the guy's beeping his horn for him to, I'm trying to go, and he wouldn't move his wheelchair.
Was this gentleman a panhandler?
Yeah, he has a sign and he asks people for money. I'm not saying it's I feel bad for the guy. I think I gave him money once. On when I was on my bike. So I feel bad for the guy. I want to help people. I like helping people, but I just think it's kind of obstructive. Like, just at least can you get it? Can you just park not blocking the people? Because not everybody wants to give you money. Mm-hmm. Some people don't have money, especially now. No federal government shutdown.
Mr. Mavronis, let me ask you this. You said that you hadn't witnessed or ever seen open urination or open defecation by panhandlers, but you said it's, as you put it, a, quote, known fact, end quote. So I'm going to ask you this. Do you recall anybody, either citizen tourist, employee, employer, city employee ever telling you that panhandlers have openly defecated or openly urinated?
Yes.
Can you recall any one?
I can't recall anyone, but all you got to do is go to Facebook, what's happening in Daytona, and, it's da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, people, it's all over the internet, man. It's all over the internet. I mean, come on, you guys know this, right? This stuff is like it's all over the internet. People won't come here to, oh, what do you guys think? Me and my family, we're from Tampa, and we're going to go to Daytona. What do you guys think? What's happening in Daytona? Oh, don't come here. They'll panhandle you. Don't come here. They're boardwalk. Forget the boardwalk. You don't go to the boardwalk. You're going to be scared. Don't bring your kids here.
Now,
am I lying here? It's true.
Mr. Mavronis, I'm basically, I'm going to tender you now. I don't have any further questions of Mr. Mavronis, but I'm going to tender him to the commission for any questions that you all may have.
Okay. Does anyone have any?
Sorry if I got a little. Did I get too?
No, you just.
Sorry.
No, you're
because I'm a businessman and this affects my business and affects all these people who own businesses in Daytona Beach. They're getting squeezed right now, especially on Beach Street. They're getting squeezed. These guys need help.
Well, we want to thank you for sharing. Your story is a common story, but it's one that has to be told in order for us to help address it. So we appreciate you taking your time to share it with us.
Thank you. And I'm not the devil like a greedy businessman. Just look, I like helping people. I want to help people. So,
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question. I'm very familiar with the Bevel store. I live in that neighborhood, and I notice a lot of times that people that are panhandling at the intersection of Bevel and Nova will frequently end up on the bench on the sidewalk in front of the Steve's Diner.
Yes.
And can you tell me a little more about that? I mean, it's a very common occurrence, and
yes.
I see them, soliciting customers as they're on their way in or out because the bench is relatively near the door.
Yes.
Can you tell me is that a very common thing? I think your sister runs that store.
It's common. Yes, she runs it, but she tells me all the time. And when I was there, it happened sometimes. Like they'll cut, it's like almost like it's like that's their break time. Like they go take a break and they'll sit on the bench, in between them standing on that corner, and they'll say, "Oh, look, this is an opportunity right here." I said, "Look at this! Look at all these people coming out of here."
And that's private property
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, it's right.
Yes, within the shopping center.
Yes, it's in the shopping center. Yes, so they'll do that. They'll come in and out, and they'll sit up, they'll stand up, they get off the bench. Hey, can I get a couple of dollars?
That particular restaurant isn't open at night as much as it used to be. Is that one of the reasons why, or is?
There was a little bit of a drop in business at night. Now I don't know if it's from, in particularly the panhandling, because it happens during the day too. So her day numbers are pretty okay. The night shift dropped off a little bit, but it might be because maybe when it's dark outside, it's not. People don't feel so safe,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
I was just going to follow up from Commissioner Gillen's questions, because when you're talking about nighttime, daytime, did you happen to hear any of the testimony of Mr. Mitchner, who also talked about, as he put it, the phenomenon of his business having drop-offs with the nighttime business? Did you hear?
I didn't hear that testimony, but I heard of it. I heard of that testimony.
That was attributed by his statistics to panhandling, so I didn't know whether you heard that.
And for the record, that business is right across the street from the Steve's Diner that we're talking about.
Yes, it's right across the street. That's Sam's.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't have any further questions, Commissioner or Commissioners or Mr. Mayor, for this witness.
Okay. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next witness, Paul. Oh, sure, Paul. Would you please state your full name for the record, sir?
Paul Anthony Bellanca.
How do you spell your last name for the record?
Bellanca.
Okay. And Mr. Bellanca, where do you presently reside?
Ormond Beach.
And do you own a business in Daytona Beach?
Part ownership, yeah.
Okay.
It's a family business.
Family business?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what business is that, sir?
Krispy Kreme Donuts.
Okay. Right on the shirt, I see that. And where's that located?
We have several locations. Here in Daytona, it's at 980 West International Speedway.
And how many employees do you have there?
30, roundabout.
And do you have a general manager?
Yes.
And what is his name?
Chip Harwick, Harry Harwick.
How do you spell his last name, if you know?
Harwick.
Is Mr. Harwick actually here tonight?
He is, yes.
Okay. How long has he been your general manager?
I think we're at 10 years.
Now, Mr. Bellanca, how long, you said it was a family business. How long have you been involved in the ownership of that business?
I've been involved with the business since 2000.
And when you say it's a family business, please describe to the commission what that means.
My father-in-law, back in 1980, bought the store here in Daytona. My wife and I joined the company in 2000. He bought it in 1980. We joined in 2000, and since then we bought the Orlando market, and they've opened a store in Melbourne. And
you have a store in Melbourne?
Brother-in-law, sister-in-laws, everybody's involved.
Well, okay, if you have a store in Melbourne, I'm going to sure look that up, because I personally believe if I'm lucky enough to go to heaven, in the ante room with St. Peter, he's handing out Krispy Kreme glaze. That's my own personal opinion. I'm just telling you. It's just my own opinion. Okay. Mr. Bellanca, so you have 30 employees in the ISB location. The question I have is, have you, since 2000, seen any of the effects, and I'm not saying positively or negatively, of panhandling?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to describe for you aggressive panhandling in shorthand, including but not limited to in location. Okay. Basically, in the ordinance, which is once an individual has been panhandled and refused, the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition? Okay. First of all, have you yourself ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Okay, would you please describe to the commission the instance, or just pick an anecdote of when you've been aggressively panhandled?
It could be at that intersection, at that location.
You mean at ISB, and what's the intersection there?
Nova and International Speedway.
Okay.
Been approached, asked for money, tell them I don't have it, and approach, and as I walk into the store, ask multiple times.
After you've refused?
After refused. And of course ask them to, find another place and get off the property. They don't like that.
Have you ever been, after you've been refused, have you ever been cursed at?
Yes.
Have you ever been spit at?
No.
Okay. Have you ever heard of any panhandlers who spit at people after they refused them?
Yes.
Please tell the commission who you heard that from, and if you can recall, and tell what you know of any anecdote like that.
I believe it happened at our store, and Chip may be able to help you out with that a little bit. But I have heard stories that it happened at our location.
Okay. Have you ever had instances or heard of instances where panhandlers actually pound on the cars that are in your parking lot of customers or employees?
I haven't personally seen it, no.
Okay. Have you heard about those?
Yes.
Okay. How bad did the effects of panhandling, well, let me back up, click, and continue a couple of further questions in that regard. Did you ever have customers who were fearful of panhandlers?
Sure.
Okay, please describe to the commission any one instance or instances where you know that a customer, because they told you or elsewise, were afraid of panhandlers.
Well, some of the feedback has been is we've hired security. You guys probably already know that.
The record doesn't know that, and I'll get to that. Okay, so you've hired security. Okay, we'll talk about that later, but go ahead.
And they've let them know that these things have gone on. Firsthand, I don't have it, but it's been communicated through our management team and through even the security people.
The reason why you hired security is what?
Because of the panhandlers aggressively in the parking lot, asking for money. I won't say they're harassing, but aggressively asking for money and for the safety of our customers. Yeah.
When did you start hiring hiring security? I know you don't hire panhandlers. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Although, okay, have you ever heard of instances like there was testimony where a panhandler has said to a business owner, if you give me money, I won't come back? Have you ever heard that?
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you first hire security?
Gosh, I don't have the date. We've had them there for several months now.
What are their hours, and have those hours varied?
They vary now because the panhandlers would they got on the schedule, so they knew that they were coming from 7 to 3, and after 3 o'clock he could go to the Krispy Kreme, and that's a good corner. So they would show up at 3:15. So we started switching some of those hours around with the security team, and now they look for him. They know his vehicle. They know who he is. It's typically the same guy that's on our property. So they'll look for him.
What's the shift currently? I'll do it that way. What's the shift of your security? What hours?
It varies now. Sometimes
Okay.
in the morning and sometimes at night. And we're doing different shifts. I think Chip, our general manager of that location, has more of that information than I do.
Have you ever had? You were sitting here when Mr. Ross testified about employees that were afraid because of panhandlers. Did you hear that testimony?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had any of your employees tell you that they were afraid because of the panhandlers?
I'm aware that Chip does have some staff walked over to their cars, yeah.
Have you ever, you also heard Mr. Ross testify that he's had some people walk customers out to their cars. Have you ever had that?
I don't know firsthand of that. Again, my general manager, who's here, you could ask him.
Okay. Have you ever seen any instances in your going and coming around Daytona Beach of any panhandlers that either openly urinated or openly defecated?
Urinated, yeah, I've seen that.
And where have you seen that, sir?
In multiple locations.
Okay, and you've seen it by known panhandlers or people?
But I guess I could say I've seen defecation, but I don't.
You don't know whether it's by a panhandler or not?
Yeah.
Okay. But urination, you do. You've seen them do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Have you ever had any evidence of needles or anything that have been left on your property by panhandlers?
Yes. We had to change our policy with our bathrooms as a result. So it's all coded now, and it changes on a regular basis because they would leave them in the bathrooms and hide them in different places.
Now, when you say coded, tell me what you mean by that.
Oh, we use a code lock. So we used to have a key attached to a large bucket head because they would steal the keys and come back and sleep in there.
And these are people that you're doing that that you've just described that are the same people that you've seen panhandle your customers?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I don't have any further questions for Mr. Blanca, but I want to tender him, as I've done previously, to the commission for any questions that they may have.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Blanca? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I may add the expense of the security is up there. It's quite expensive.
Thank you for bringing that up, because as particularly as you can, without getting into literally your business, okay, can you mention any figures to the commission about, and I'm saying if you want to round or basically talk about anything about can you do that?
Sure. We spend $8,400 a month for that. Yeah.
What?
So, it affects our profit.
That's your bottom line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You spend roughly $100,000 a year.
You could annualize it, yeah, for sure. And it's for the safety of our customer. They're threatened and they're scared. And my general manager could testify with you guys the comments that they make with him, because he's there on a daily basis and he communicates with the customer and he sees and hears, that they're happy that we hired these people so that they would feel safe coming back. They hadn't been in a while, and they come back now because we have security in the parking lot. And it's expensive.
Yeah, that is expensive. Well,
thank you, Mr. Blanca.
Might I say that I spoke with your general manager, who was helping, doing what you all do in the community, helping with a project I was working on. And I spoke with him about a year ago prior to the hiring, and he elaborated greatly as to the great concern that customers were having. And for me, it was one of the driving reasons that we're doing this, was the conversation that I had with him, because he was really at his wit's end. And it wasn't out of any fear. It was just because of his customers were really frustrated, and that was what he said to me. And he was desperate for help. And so hopefully something will transpire to make it better.
Well, let's hope so. It's hard enough to get in the corner there, right? Much less being blocked by panhandlers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Blanca. Thank you for your testimony. Take care, Paul. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to now call Mr. Harwick.
Well,
I do.
Would you please state your full name to the City Commission?
Yes, it's Harry Bruce Harwick II.
And you have a nickname?
Chip.
Okay. Mr. Harwick, where do you presently reside?
I live in Ormond Beach.
Okay. And are you presently employed?
Yes.
And by what establishment?
I work for Krispy Kreme Donuts on International Speedway, 980 West International Speedway.
And you heard Mr. Blanca just testify about, in essence, that fact, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
I'm in my 11th year, a few months shy of 11 years.
And how many employees does that Krispy Kreme have?
Right now, 35, but we typically have about 40.
Have you heard Mr. Blanca testify about the security that he has been forced to employ at Krispy Kreme? Did you not?
Yes. And
he said that you would be well versed with regard to the reason for that, just firsthand observation or being told about it. Did you hear him testify to that?
Yes.
Okay. And also, you heard Mr. Mayor testify about a conversation that you had with them, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when was that?
That was last year, probably right after the Easter Beach run.
Probably. Good memory.
Why was it necessary for Krispy Kreme, in your firsthand observation, Mr. Harwick, why was it necessary for Krispy Kreme to hire security?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Main thing was for our customer safety. Panhandling was getting so aggressive that they were knocking on the door before they even got out of the car. People were not wanting to come into our store because they didn't want to deal with that. We've also seen our sales drop, which I would say is about 7%, and we've halted that, and we're probably gained about 3% back now by hiring the security, but we're not seeing any more reduced numbers or customer counts of people coming into the store.
Now, did customers tell you they were afraid?
Yes.
Please tell the commission any one thing that the customers said, or any one customer said to evidence the fear that they had coming into Krispy Kreme.
Several occasions before we hired the security, customers would come in and they'd be afraid to leave because they don't want to be approached by the panhandlers because they're waiting outside for them to give them money or a donut or a drink. So.
And customers told you that themselves?
Yes, and we've walked them out of our store on several occasions.
Now, did you firsthand observe panhandlers, as you described and Mr. Blanc described, knocking on the car windows of customers?
Yes.
And did you ever see customers leave before they come in your stores after a panhandler did that?
Yes.
I'm going to define in shorthand, as it were, aggressive panhandling for you, Mr. Harwick, as when a panhandle occurs and is refused, that the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition?
Yes, sir.
Have you yourself ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes.
Okay, would you please tell the commission any one instance when you have been aggressively panhandled, sir?
Well, I've been on that corner for over 10 years, so it's gradually gotten worse over the last year and a half. Many occasions I've been approached by panhandlers asking for money. If I don't give them money, then they start cursing at me and telling them I have no right to tell them they can't be on our business. We probably got a stack 4 or 5 inches tall of trespassing warnings that every time we get somebody that's aggressive, that we call the Daytona Beach PD to come out. Over the years, they'd get in your face, threaten to kill you or hurt you.
You've had somebody do that?
Yes.
Now, you say you have a stack, you just put your hand out, of trespass notices, correct?
Yes.
What I'd like for you to do, okay, is I think you have my card. Mm-hmm. I would like for you to copy those, and I'll arrange to have them picked up. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, have any of your employees ever told you that they were fearful after being panhandled?
Yes.
Please describe to the commission, without naming if you don't need to, but any employee, either current or past, or describe them and what they've told you about being panhandled.
I have one current employee who is afraid to walk to her vehicle by herself because she would come in early in the morning and they would come out of the bushes, and she had one gentleman who actually followed her across the road and was trying to hump her as she was walking across the road.
This is a current employee?
Yes.
When we say walking across the road, which road was she walking across? Nova or ISB?
She was crossing ISB at Nova.
Okay. And that's what she told you?
Yes.
Now, forgetting aggressive panhandling for the moment, panhandling in general, people soliciting and not being aggressive, do you see that happen as well?
Yes.
Okay. In your goings and comings around Daytona Beach, have you ever been panhandled? Not aggressively panhandled. Have you ever been panhandled?
Yes.
Have you ever do you ever frequent the boardwalk?
Only time I'm at the boardwalk is when I do the Easter Beach run. Other than that, I will not go there.
Okay. You will not go there?
No.
Why not?
You got homeless people that are laying there on the ground. You know, they're asking for money. It doesn't smell very good over there.
Well, let me be clear about something. The ordinance that we're talking about here has nothing to do with homeless people. It has to do with regulating panhandling. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So all I'm interested in is any anecdotes that you know of about panhandlers that you've seen. So you're talking about people telling you these things, and that's why you don't want to frequent the boardwalk?
Yeah, the last time I was there.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about an incident that involves your firsthand knowledge, if you have it, okay, of a person in a wheelchair panhandling somewhere in the vicinity of your restaurant or the Krispy Kreme, and then with a car that arrives. And I want you to describe to the commission exactly what you told me that you observed about the instance of this particular car and a panhandler, and the panhandler in a wheelchair. Go ahead.
There's actually a couple of people that panhandle in a chair, in a wheelchair. We have one guy who typically he's moved off of our property and over on the Steak and Shake side.
And Steak and Shake, for the record, is on the other side of Nova?
Yes.
Okay, on ISB in the same side that is on the north side, but it's just the other side, the west side of Nova, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
He sits there. He used to come on our property, and we finally got him to leave. But we also have another group of people that seem to work in like a group of 4, and they'll spend like an hour or 2 in the wheelchair, and then they'll switch off, and another person will get in the wheelchair. Ironically, one of the ladies that's with them told me that they do this so that they can finance trips to see their family in Wisconsin. So.
Now, you physically observed the person getting up out of the wheelchair and being switched off with another person?
Yeah, they typically leave the property and go over to the Marathon, which is diagonal from Krispy Kreme on the opposite side of ISB. And that's where they switch out.
Have you ever seen, or we'll start with the more, we'll start and just ask this. Have you ever seen evidences of open urination and open defecation by panhandlers?
Yes.
Would you please describe to the commission any firsthand observance that you have of a known panhandler either openly urinating or openly defecating?
Last year we had a panhandler who we had asked to leave the property, come back in and actually defecate in our retail. We had to shut down our retail and clean and sanitize our retail area.
Walked in, you asked him to leave, and he walked in and openly defecated in the Krispy Kreme?
She walked in and then grabbed napkins to wipe it and threw it on the floor.
And how long did you have to shut down because of that?
It took us about 35, 40 minutes to do it.
Have you ever had to call, you've heard the testimony tonight of Mr. Tucker and also Mr. Cahill, correct? Mm-hmm. Have you ever had to call city employees to deal with open defecation or open urination, or have you done that cleanup yourselves?
We do it ourselves. In the parking lot, they do it a lot, so we have to pressure wash and sanitize quite often. We don't need to waste the city. We just take care of it. City resources.
You heard Mr. Blanca talk about needles and other things that known panhandlers have left on your property. Did you not hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Would you please tell the City Commission any one instance or instances where a known panhandler has left something like that on the Krispy Kreme property?
December 3rd, 2018.
Okay, I didn't ask for the specificity, but I like it. Okay, go ahead.
We had an employee who was cleaning up after a panhandler left. She was taking out the trash and actually was stuck by a needle.
Oh, was stuck by a needle?
Yes, was sent to the hospital to be evaluated. Other occasions were in the parking lot. We found needles. We found them in the bathrooms. We found people that actually take off the toilet bowl and throw them in there.
Now, are these people that you can identify as people who
Yes,
frequented? Wait a second. Have we frequented the vicinity of your business and were known panhandlers?
Yes.
Go ahead. You were about ready to add something.
Yeah, we do because we're pretty good about making sure when we know somebody is panhandling, they've been panhandling, because we do have the coded locks on our doors. We go in afterwards and just make sure, because we don't want anything to happen to any of our customers.
So when you know that a known panhandler has gone to the bathroom in your restroom, then you make sure that when that comes out that there's nothing like a needle or anything in that bathroom when you know it's a panhandler that's been in there. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor, I have no further questions for Mr. Harwick, but I tender him to the commission for any questions that he may have, that you all may have.
Mr. Harwick, how do you differentiate who's gone to the restroom? I never understood that from when you were
Our restrooms are outside, and our retail staff can see who comes in and out. We also have to give out the code to people. A lot of times, they'll come up to the door and they'll grab the door when somebody's coming out, when a customer's coming out of the bathroom. So that's how we know.
Okay.
That's how you know that it's a panhandler going in. Is that what you're saying?
Plus, they come off of the corner of International and Nova and enter the bathrooms.
And you don't, because obviously, I'll say it, but it's an obvious question, I just don't know the answer to it. You don't give out the code to the panhandlers, correct?
No.
Okay, but what they do is they position themselves so before the door closes, when a legitimate customer, they basically grab it to go in.
Correct.
And that's when, after that, your employees see that, and they go in and clean it up. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question.
Thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions from the Commission?
As always, thank you, Chip. And your memory is even better than it was when you were in my class. Very good.
Just because when the conversation that you had with Mayor Henry, did you relate to him as much of you now related to the Open Commission, these kind of events, and which he's said has led to at least an attempt to help regulate?
Yes, we discussed it, and we discussed the homeless shelter that they're working on, which is going to be great.
Yeah.
Just the main issues we had is that people wouldn't come back. We had youth groups that wouldn't stop at our location anymore until this year because they saw the
security. Now, talk to me about that a bit, and that is, you had youth groups that refused to stop at your location?
Yes.
Is that because of the panhandlers?
Yes.
How did you get that communicated to you, Mr. Harwick?
When they came in, they talked to the security guard on duty. His name was Tom Howe.
How do you spell Howe?
Howe.
Okay.
And he's the one that parlayed the information to me. And then right when we first started security, they started calling me directly at the store, wanting to talk to me and just say thank you for doing that. We're going to come back. If you look at posts on what's happening in Daytona, there was a lot of stuff about Krispy Kreme on how we hired a security guard, and people love the fact that we did that.
But they loved it. But as you heard, Mr. Blanca, it costs a lot of money too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does cost a lot of money.
Okay. Before he testified to that, were you aware that it costs $8,400 a month?
Yes. Me and Jenny Blanca set up the security at that location.
Is Mr. Howe the only person who is security for Krispy Kreme now?
No. We also have a gentleman, Jim Brown, Robert Murphy, and Ron Beanie is the guy that heads it up. He works really with Chief Capri over there. We've been to ComStat meetings and talked about it and discussed it as well.
Mm-hmm. No further question.
Is this the only of your locations that you have security?
Yes,
this is the only.
We only have security at Daytona.
Okay.
I can testify that they don't in Melbourne. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Harwick.
Thanks.
for some brief testimony, Mr. Fuqua.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony about giving this question is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Mr. Fuqua, would you please state your name to the commission?
Danny Fuqua,
And would you please, where do you presently reside?
412 Aletha Drive, Daytona Beach.
How long have you resided in Daytona Beach?
30 years now.
Okay. Are you presently employed?
Retired.
Okay. Did you recently go to the city of St. Augustine?
I did.
When was that?
That was November 30th, my wife and I wedding anniversary.
Did you go on any investigations when you went to the city of St. Augustine?
Well, I heard before that St. Augustine had the ordinance, and while I was there, I sort of looked to see if I saw anything, panhandlers, and I.
And please tell the commission what you saw or didn't see.
Well, I would say about 4 years ago, mostly every year, my wife and I would go to St. Augustine and visit, and I was stationed at St. Augustine, so I would go back and visit from time to time, and we'd go downtown. And a few years ago, downtown, we saw a lot of panhandlers. So on our trip on November the 30th, and I looked around and I mentioned to my wife, I said, hey, wow, look at this. I don't really see what we see in Daytona Beach.
And with that, I just wanted to tender him to the commission. I don't have any other questions about anything, but I thank you, Mr. Fuqua, for testifying.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the commission?
It's Fuqua.
Okay, next I'm going to call Mr. John Clary.
I do.
Mr. Clary, would you please state your name to the commission?
John Calvin Clary.
And you testified previously at the last evidentiary hearing on December the 12th, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you were put under oath then, too, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And I want you to recapitulate and, in essence, in summary, state to the commission what your findings were and how you arrived at them with regard to the conclusion of the percentage of Daytona Beach after applying the parameters of the proposed ordinance. If you just recapitulate that for the commission as of December the 12th, 2018.
Okay, as of December 12th, 2018, we had taken the entire corporate boundaries of the city, which include 44,226 acres. And out of that, we removed the water features in any areas that were underwater, which totaled 12,422 acres. So that left us with 31,804 acres of dry land area within the city corporate boundaries.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We proceeded to follow the written ordinance or the parameters that you had given us by placing buffers around businesses and so forth and everything that's delineated within the ordinance.
As of December the 12th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
At that time, we calculated that after applying the buffers to everything that was indicated, we came up with 745 acres, or 2.3% of the dry land area within the city of Daytona Beach that would be prohibited from panhandling or restricted from panhandling. And it allowed, or there was a permitted area of 31,059 acres.
Which constituted what percent as of December the 12th with the proposed ordinance that it would be permitted to panhandle in Daytona Beach?
97.7% of the dry land area within the corporate boundaries.
Now, The map that you see above us is, and I'm going to basically ask this because I'm not certain. Does that constitute the present available and unavailable areas, or?
Yes.
Okay, so
it does.
Then we'll
It's
keep
present.
going.
Okay.
Then after December the 12th, were there any revisions that you made, Mr. Clary, to your calculations?
Yes, we previously had a 20-foot buffer around each gas pump island at every gas station in the city.
Okay, and I asked you to remove that.
And that was removed. And then we added the amphitheaters and the amphitheater seating areas and playgrounds. And those areas were added as prohibited areas within.
And would you tell the commission what revisions or alterations did that make in your foregoing percentages of available land in Daytona Beach for panhandling?
So the resulting area available for panhandling is now 97.5% at 31,016 acres. And the prohibited area is 2.5% or 2.5% for a total acreage of prohibited area at 788 acres.
What was that percentage again, prohibited?
Prohibited is 2.5%.
And the acreage there?
788.
Okay. Now, sir. You see what I'm holding?
Yes, I do.
What is this that I'm holding?
That is the panhandling map book series that was compiled over the past roughly 6 months.
Now, we're being shown in the viewer a page out of that panhandling map sequence, correct?
Yes.
And what is that sequence?
That is the index, the map series index. So there's 185 pages in the map series. And this index illustrates where those pages or grids are located throughout the city.
Okay. Now, first of all, I see, you say there's 185 of these?
185 grid segments.
Grid segments.
That have
Thank you.
prohibited.
Right. I'll ask about those and how they're organized. I'm looking from the top down. How are these grid segments organized, if you look at that?
They're organized left to right, top to bottom. So if you could imagine if it was a full, complete grid, left to right, top to bottom is how you would read it. The areas that do not have grid segments are actually areas that don't have any prohibited panhandling areas within them. So there's no need to create a map book page for that.
Okay. How long did it take your staff to create these 185 maps as well as this index?
Well, it took place over roughly 6 month time period, and the GIS staff in IT devoted probably about half of their regular work week to that, and then we had 6 other individuals that helped in other departments, and so my estimation is total hours is probably close to 2,000 hours, including all revisions to get to this point.
Now, you understand, don't you? Now, although I'm about ready to put these maps into evidence as support as the next numbered exhibit, Madam Clerk, to this ordinance, but Mr. Clary, I want something clear to the record and your understanding of it. You understand that these maps, per se, are not a part of my ordinance, but rather illustrated, correct?
Correct.
Please tell the Commission why that is so. Why is it that these maps illustrate the effect of the ordinance, but are not a part of it?
This represents everything that's contained on these maps. Is a snapshot in time. It's all the businesses, all the active businesses that are currently operating, all the schools that are currently operating, the parks, where the bus stops are currently located. So all these features are subject to change. It's just a snapshot in time. So there are vacant storefronts that don't have occupants with current business licenses, and they are not included at this time.
So if a vacant storefront would open up, there'd be a buffer around it pursuant to the ordinance itself, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
If a school closed, then there would be possibly more available land for panhandling, correct?
Yes, as soon as that business was no longer operating, then it would change. That buffer would no longer apply.
Okay. So when interpreting the ordinance, you look to the directives of the ordinance itself, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I'm going to present you with the next numbered exhibit. I can't remember where we are in numbering. Okay. Here's just the maps. And Mr. Mayor, I don't have any further questions for Mr. Clary, but I'd certainly like to tender him to the commission for any questions. But I have to, again, publicly, as I have in writing to you all, commend his staff and Mr. Clary for an incredible job of detail, of diligence. I cannot say too much about John Clary, Pratima, Ed, and Tom, and people that I probably don't know, other than is my professional opinion that somewhere in their offices there's a dartboard with my face on it, okay, which is perfectly understandable, but soon to be released. That's all I have to say. And I have no facts to that, but I have to say that they have done an exemplary job, and I thank you very much, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. This Commissioner Traeger?
Buffers around businesses, on Beach Street and Main Street.
The buffers are placed around the entryway to the business, entries and exits.
Okay.
And those are at 20 foot. It's a 20-foot radius. So the buffer center point would be on the front door of the business.
20 foot each way?
Yes, ma'am. 20 foot in a radial.
So if you had a number of stores side by side by side, that whole area would be forbidden.
That's correct. And since some of the storefronts are closer together than 20 feet, then the buffers have been dissolved so that we don't count the same area twice. And that's the same way with any overlapping, if a school is near a business or so forth. So we don't count the areas twice.
What about the boardwalk?
Well, the boardwalk, as it's written in this ordinance, is entirely covered.
Okay. What about residential areas?
Only if they had, according to the ordinance, only if they had businesses. I mean, there's some different. There are some businesses or residential operating in business zoned areas, and so you could have a business near a residence, but we didn't buffer any residential.
And I'll speak to that if I might, Madam Commissioner, because that gets into policy, and the reason is specifically as occurred in St. Augustine and would occur in any other jurisdiction, including Melbourne's. Is this. A private property, we have to be particularly sensitive to that. We have to be particularly sensitive to private property. That was candidly the reason after research that I removed the 20-foot buffer around gas pumps. Because the reason for the other buffers, for example, ATMs, outdoor dining, stops, okay, is because you're going after areas of buffer, okay, not preclusion, but buffer, where people are vulnerable because they're a captive audience or amphitheater. If a person who owned a private residence, I'm going to say this in a kind of exaggerated way, wanted to invite panhandlers into his or her home, they could.
Do that.
And so you really don't have control of private residences of what they do. And that's basically the long and the short of it. So that's why, as well as you have to be very careful. There's places where arguably state interests are compelling, period, like assemblages of children, where you arguably can do things that you couldn't. But if a person in a private residence wanted to encourage panhandling, really isn't anything you could do about it.
But does that mean they could infiltrate residential areas?
But that is existing now. I mean, my ordinance does not affect one way or another the existence of it now. I mean, now, you have to, as I know you are, be very pragmatic about it, okay? Meaning that the concentrations where people are concentrated as panhandlers affect certain areas more than others. But where private property exists, you really can't get into a wholesale regulation now, let alone with my ordinance. My ordinance doesn't change the status quo.
What if a residential owner wanted to be in a buffer zone or something like that?
They can't be in a buffer zone by desire. I mean, they can't. You can't do that. In other words, in an ordinance, that would be constitutionally unconstitutional. In the minute you said such a thing, okay, you can't choose X or Y or Z. But I will say this, and I'm asking that you use your intuition, okay, to understand what happens. I'll tell it by way of anecdote. In my Melbourne ordinance, or in other ordinances that I've done of this nature, in my St. Augustine ordinance, let's go to St. Augustine. I didn't preclude them from residential areas because I couldn't. But the pragmatic point is, where do panhandlers want to come to operate?
Yeah, I can understand where they want to go where a lot of people is, where it's more favorable
and
for them.
that causes the issue, meaning that it's not per se, if you zeroed in on a part of Daytona Beach or on St. Augustine, as I've heard from former mayors and the chief of police there, Chief Fox, there are certain areas in commercial areas where they could arguably operate because you can't, pursuant to Reed versus Gilbert and the Tampa ordinance, which was struck down, you can't ban or preclude except on particular areas, okay? And the reason why I'm saying it that way, because it becomes vitally important, like the survival of the ordinance depends on it, as to how much of the area, as the mayor said in my very first visit up here, that we talked, the dynamic, as to how much of the area is available for panhandling, that you heard Mr. Clary testify. Your ordinance may stand or fall on that percentage. For example, in St. Augustine, which as you heard what Mr. Fuqua testified, as you heard the mayor's anecdote when I first came up here, I believe, I'm going to be right, 94.5% of the city is available for panhandle. So the question is, with Mr. Fuqua's testimony, or the mayor's testimony, or recounting his anecdotes, why is the regulation successful? I'll put it that way. So you you can overstep and the ordinance will die. It will be unconstitutional.
Okay, but there's still areas of the city that might be vulnerable, but generally they probably will not be going there because it's not that profitable.
That is, I'm saying that's a policy point. It's historically what has happened in St. Augustine. And that's really as far as I can say, because you must understand, every word I say up here, every word you say may be examined one day by a court. And so I have to be very careful and deliberate in every word I tell you and every question I answer.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing further for Mr. Clary.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, if I might have a break for convenience?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I understand that. I had to have one for convenience.
Thanks.
Physically.
Very good.
Do you want to convene and then reconvene, or adjourn and then reconvene?
I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll adjourn and we'll reconvene in just a moment.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time we are going to reconvene our scheduled special meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Khan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For my next witness, I'd like to call Mr. Drew Driscoll, Chief Driscoll.
Okay.
I do.
Chief Driscoll, would you please give your full name, although I know they know it, to the commission for the record?
Drew, D-R-U, Driscoll, D-R-I-S-C-O-L-L.
And what position do you presently hold?
I am Fire Chief for the Daytona Beach Fire Department.
How long have you been Fire Chief, Chief Driscoll?
A little over 5 years now.
Okay. And in the department, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce at least one of these names, you have a firefighter, Philip Pikert. Am I doing that right?
Lieutenant Philip Pikert. Yes.
Okay, so I did okay on that one.
Yes.
Okay. And what are Lieutenant Pikert's job duties?
As a lieutenant for the Daytona Beach Fire Department, he is responsible for a given district of the city and responsible for the crew, the engine, and the station, and all that goes on that in that district.
Is Lieutenant Pikert an EMT?
Lieutenant Piker is a state certified paramedic.
And please describe for the commission what that means. What is a state certified paramedic?
A state certified licensed paramedic is allowed to perform advanced life support functions such as cardiac defibrillation, intravenous medications, intubation, stuff along those lines to resuscitate patients.
And when you say resuscitate patients, are you talking about also use of the substance of the drug Narcan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And please tell the commission best as you can. And I can also ask the lieutenant, what is Narcan?
Narcan is a drug that many have heard of nowadays. It's the most basic sense is someone that may be suffering a drug overdose, depending upon the drug. Narcan could be administered to temporarily neutralize the effects of those drugs and bring them out of their high.
Excuse the one repetition. Hopefully it will be the only one. How long did you say you'd been fire chief?
I've been fire chief over 5 years now. I've been with the Daytona Beach Fire Department 9 days short of 20 years. Not that I'm counting.
As in your employ with the Daytona Beach Fire Department, what else other than fire chief have you been?
I've been a firefighter and driver engineer, captain, battalion chief, acting deputy chief, and first and foremost resident of Daytona Beach.
How long have you been a resident of Daytona Beach?
I've been a resident of Daytona Beach proper since 2011. I've grown up in the greater Daytona Beach area, attended Seabreeze High School as my father before me, and they lived on Pelican Avenue in the city of Daytona Beach.
Now, Chief Driscoll, Commissioner, if you need a break anytime, you let us know. I mean that, okay, because we can, take care of you. Chief Driscoll, in the 20 years that you have been associated with the Daytona Beach Fire Department, have you had occasion in your different job responsibilities to see the effect of panhandling on citizens, tourists, business owners, customers, your firefighters, yourself, your family?
Absolutely. Several occurrences ranging from the our employees the stories of incidents in which they were dispatched to provide assistance of some sort, their anecdotes of what they've witnessed, whether it's defecation, urination, a myriad of things.
And also, do you have any? Well, let me first of all define aggressive panhandling for you to be including but not limited, as it's provided in the proposed ordinance, to once a person has been panhandled and refused, that the panhandler persists. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever yourself been aggressively panhandled?
Yes, I have.
And would you please tell the commission the incidence of or one incidence of aggressive panhandling that you yourself were involved in?
As a resident of the city, frequent the businesses in the city. We were leaving the shopping center that Dick's Sporting Goods is located.
Where is that located in this?
On International Speedway in Thames Boulevard, approximately.
Okay.
We being my 15-year-old daughter and myself. My 15-year-old daughter has her permit, so please don't drive on those days. However, we were leaving Dick's Sporting Goods, and when we came to the traffic signal that exits that specific shopping center, as my daughter was driving, first we had a knock at the window, and I politely waved them off, what I believe was politely waved them off. That knocking became banging on my window, or my daughter's driver's side window, so I chose to exit and give what I felt was a equally verbally appropriate response to their aggressive behavior.
Were you in uniform at that time?
No, I was not.
Okay, go ahead.
So I might have shared some words.
Yeah. And then what happened?
And so then, as I'm outside confronting the individual, the light turned green, and my daughter, who is more of in a panic right at that point, she's telling me it's a green light, so I returned to the vehicle, and as we drove, headed eastbound on West International Speedway Boulevard, we pulled into the Shell station at the corner of Thames and West International because my daughter was in such a state of panic, she couldn't continue to drive safely, so we switched out roles and, of course, had a conversation on the remaining ride home.
And the effect of her on what she witnessed and what you've described, did you see it in her face? What did you see? Or what did she say?
To give a background, my 15-year-old daughter is a college hopeful, fast pitch catcher. Not much really scares her, but she was definitely fearful of that incident. The panic and then followed by the tears. It's really uncommon to see her that way. So it was a priority to pull over and switch driver roles.
Now, have any of your firefighters, including but not limited to Lieutenant Pikert, and also in the employee of the fire department, and I hope I'm going to get 2 for 2 in the pronunciation of names here, do you also have a firefighter, Greg Brocksmith?
A driver engineer, Greg Brocksmith.
Okay.
Yes.
And is firefighter or driver engineer Brocksmith also at EMT?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Is he also a certified paramedic?
No, he is not.
All right. Can you tell the commission any anecdote, and we'll get their testimony in a moment, okay, but including but not limited to from Lieutenant Pikert and driver engineer Brocksmith, that any of the firefighters under your under the employ of the city of Daytona Beach have told you about aggressive panhandling, and they may be too numerous to relate tonight in their entirety, but any one that stands out about aggressive panhandling as I have described it for you?
As in reference to aggressive panhandling, yes, there's incidents of panhandlers approaching the city-owned vehicles, seeking money, seeking food, some form of assistance that we don't accustomed to provide, and when refused, continuing frequent hand gestures and cussing along those lines.
Have any citizens of Daytona Beach ever approached you as a fire chief and told you of instances of aggressive panhandling?
Citizens know another employee encounter, however, their city-owned vehicle was spit upon when they refused to give money after refusing kindly because they were on duty. They weren't going to choose to use colorful language.
Who was the city employee? I want to say, well, first of all, what city employee and what was the employee of that?
Sasha Staten, Community Relations for Daytona Beach Fire Department.
And where was it, if you can recall, where she endured a panhandler spitting on the car?
The intersection of West International Speedway Boulevard and Ridgewood Avenue.
Have you ever heard from your firefighter? First of all, how many firefighters are there in the Daytona Beach Department?
Our department is 109 proud members.
When you're not in uniform, and we've talked about aggressive panhandling, panhandling that's not aggressive, have you ever been panhandled?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you ever frequent the boardwalk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever seen panhandlers on the boardwalk?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen, smelled, or observed either public urination or public defecation by known panhandlers?
Besides being aggressively panhandled myself on the boardwalk, frequenting the events down there, I've witnessed defecation and urination, but I can't specify that that individual is a known panhandler.
Very candid. So in other instances, in addition to the one that you have related to the commission tonight, you yourself have been aggressively panhandled on the boardwalk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On more than one occasion?
Yes.
And additionally to that, I think you previously testified that you yourself have been panhandled as well, correct?
Yes.
On the boardwalk?
Yes.
Have your crew ever related to you, I want to say the employees of the firefighters, 109 members, ever related to you instances when, and we'll get the lieutenant's testimony as well as the driver engineers in a moment, but including them and others, have they ever related to you that upon going to a call involving a panhandler that they have seen needles and other sharp edges?
Yes.
Okay. Would you please relate any one anecdote that any one employee has told you about one of the 109 firefighters finding or seeing needles or other such edged instruments with relation to known panhandlers?
Following the last testimonial meeting in December.
In December 12th?
Correct. That photos were taken of our crew administering care to someone underneath the boardwalk. I recognize the crew from the photos that were shared in the presentation. I communicated with those individuals at the time, and they were unaware that they're being photographed. But that person actually did have needles and other drug paraphernalia with them.
And he was a known panhandler?
Yes, to them.
And who were the members of that crew? Who did you talk to?
I don't recollect right now.
Okay. Is that a record that you could give me?
Absolutely.
All right. Have you yourself ever observed open urination or open defecation?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you yourself ever observed known panhandlers who had dogs as pets?
I have.
Okay. Have you observed that they don't have collars or licenses on them?
I couldn't offer you a percentage, but there are a portion that I've witnessed that are unleashed and unlicensed.
Okay.
Do not have a license present on them. How about that?
I understand that. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions more for Chief Driscoll. I thank him for, also I have thanked Chief Capri, and I wanted to thank, and I'll probably do so in writing, Chief Driscoll as well. He was one of the first people who offered me assistance and met with me in your office in your absence, Mr. Mayor, and briefed me on some of the incidences related tonight. And I very much appreciate his devotion to the city and the help that he's given me. Are there any other incidences that you would like to relate to the commission that are related to your firsthand observations of the effects of panhandling on the city of Daytona Beach?
Absolutely, there is. 2 items I'd like to bring up.
Sure.
One is impedance to emergency vehicles.
Okay, tell me about it.
There is was an individual at the intersection of Bellevue and Nova. They frequented that location. We had reports from our crews, complaints from our crews of as they're responding emergently through that intersection, traffic didn't have the ability to move over to the nearest side. There's a grass area next to Boulevard Tire on the south west corner.
What are the roads?
Bellevue and Nova.
Okay.
Yep. And so it restricted their emergent response to potentially go save a life.
And so that was on an emergency call?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember the crew or anybody who was on it?
I do not remember, but we do have records.
Okay. And when was that approximately? Do you know?
I would approximate 4 to 5 months ago.
Okay. Go ahead.
Another concern we have as the authority having jurisdiction for our fire code, we oftentimes see people who are known panhandlers that frequent means of egress to buildings. As you could imagine, in a fire emergency, that we take great care in our code and in enforcing our code for means of egress for the safety of our citizens and guests. And we have seen numerous occasions in which persons who are known panhandlers to us as a department have congregated around points of egress, restricting exit.
Which could impede the service that your department is trying to give or can give, correct?
Impede our entrance, of course, but most importantly, impede the exit of individuals trying to flee harm.
Thank you, Chief Driscoll. And do you have any other incidents of the effect of panhandling that you have observed on your city of Daytona Beach that you want to relate to the commission? But I appreciate your testimony.
No, just the mental anguish example that I offered with my daughter.
Yeah. How's she doing now?
She's fine.
Does she ever bring up that incident?
Unfortunately, yes. But then we just have discussions about confidence and always being aware of your surroundings, stuff along those lines.
Thank you, Chief Driscoll. And again, I want to tender him to the commission for any questions.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm curious question. How many calls do you think you respond to with panhandling with regard to providing service?
I do not have a record that relates specifically to panhandling, though we have been on calls related to, and I believe the Chief of Police could also support this. We have responded to incidents where known panhandlers have been struck by vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Drew. Excellent. I'd like to call Lieutenant Philip Pikert as my next witness.
I do.
Would you please state your full name to the commission?
Philip Pikert, P-E-I-C-K-E-R-T.
And by whom are you employed?
The Daytona Beach Fire Department.
And what is your rank?
Lieutenant.
Okay. Lieutenant Pikert, how long have you been a firefighter?
I've been with the department for 13 years.
And how long have you been a lieutenant?
A little over 5 years now.
Where did you receive your training to be a firefighter?
The First Coast Tech Center in St. Augustine.
And you are a certified paramedic?
Yes, sir.
And where did you receive the training to be a certified paramedic?
Valencia Community College in Orlando.
And are you also an EMT?
If you're a paramedic in the state of Florida, you're already considered an EMT. It's EMT paramedic.
Okay. As far as being a certified paramedic, what really does that entail you to do? What does that give you the right to do, and the responsibility to do?
Well, yeah, again, you're already an EMT when you become a paramedic, so you're already doing the basic life support skills. You're building on those to a more advanced level, being able to do more invasive skills, provide medications, read electrocardiograms, do IV administration, intubation to provide oxygen therapy, things like that.
And also, can you have the ability to administer Narcan?
Yes, sir.
And please describe to the commission, what is Narcan?
Naloxone or Narcan is a opioid antagonist. It is designed to go in and block the opioid receptors so that it stops the high or buzz that they get from taking some type of narcotic.
Have you, in the city of Daytona Beach, seen the incidence and the emergence of the opioid crisis?
Yes, sir. And
please describe to the commission what that means. I mean, what sort of emergence of the opioid crisis have you seen?
The different drugs that hit the streets come and go in waves, but the most current wave is, of course, heroin, because the price has dropped on it, has suddenly become more prevalent. So seeing a lot of unresponsive people with decreased respiratory drive when you pull on scene, you do initial assessment, they see that their pupils are pinpoint, and it kind of indicates that, okay, now we're dealing with a narcotic overdose.
Okay. Have you ever administered Narcan in the result of that and actually saved a person's life?
Not so much that Narcan itself was what saved their life, but initiating immediate action to protect their respiratory drive, yes.
Have you ever done that to known panhandlers?
I have not personally done it for a known panhandler, no.
Okay. Have you ever yourself personally attended calls, EMT paramedic calls of known panhandlers?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen incidents when you've attended such calls of public urination and public defecation attributed to the known panhandler? And here's what I mean. I mean, when you reach the call involving a known panhandler, that there's either urination on their person or around them, obviously coming from them, or defecation as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you please take any anecdote that you can recall in which such an event has happened and relate it to the commission?
The one that sticks out as most memorable is maybe a year and a half ago now. I was assigned as lieutenant at Engine 6. We responded for somebody who was having an issue in the parking lot near the McDonald's in front of the Sam's Club. It was an individual who was in a wheelchair. While we were treating them, noticed that there was stool both on the seat of the wheelchair and on the ground around them. The reason it's memorable to me in particular is my driver engineer was trying to be tactful about it and told him, hey, be careful where you roll your chair to so you don't step in the dog doo-doo, and he informed us in a very loud manner that no, that was his.
Now, when you, in incidences like when you see a panhandler with that such evidence of public defecation or public urination, what do you do about cleanup? I mean, who do you call? What do you do?
Normally, if we're dealing with cleanup for something like that, we're there to manage the incident. If we're dealing with like in that situation there, to try and resolve the situation so that nobody going through the parking lot will have it. Since I had gloves on and we have a biohazard bag, picked it up, put it in the biohazard bag, double knotted it, and we disposed of it with the biohazard trash at the station.
Have you ever seen in an EMT certified paramedic call that you've seen and been on evidence that a known panhandler had either a needle on him or in a backpack or a razor blade or an edged weapon?
I haven't run into them as far as with edged weapons per se. Most of what we find is after we start treating them, because we don't go through and search anyone's pockets, but having run calls on individuals who are no panhandlers, and then while treating them, PD will look for identification or something like that, and the police department will find things inside their pockets.
In your site?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you say treating them, you have calls that you're brought out as EMT, certified paramedic, treating known paralegals. Treating them for what? What do you do?
It really depends on what the nature of who called it in, and then when we get there, determining what's actually going on. There's a wide discrepancy from typically, the vast majority of my calls over the last year have been in the same corridor, kind of you heard from earlier, the area of Nova Road and ISB. But typically we get calls for person down or unresponsive person because somebody will see somebody who has now fallen down on the side of the road and called 911.
And that those people are known panhandlers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you say fallen down, if they've fallen down, you're talking about ISB and Nova, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a well-trafficked area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you talking about in the middle of the road?
They'll either, they're not falling down so much in the middle of the road that I have seen, but they'll be holding their signs, and then they'll either decide they're going to take a break, or they'll have done something else that will initiate, somebody will think there's a medical incident and call 911 on their behalf.
And when you find them either non-responsive or unresponsive, in what area, if you can describe it as best you can, here you are at ISB and Nova.
Mm-hmm.
On one side of ISB, as we've heard testimony, there's a Krispy Kreme.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side across, on the west side, there's a Steak and Shake, correct?
Yes, sir.
Another side on the south side, southwest, is there a Marathon gas station? Is that what that is? Or there's a gas station, true?
There's I think it's the Amscott Paycheck Cashing stores over there, and then on the other side is Tuscaloosa Park.
Okay.
Most of where I'm seeing them at when we're running is they have, because I've seen them sleeping there when we're going by at night running calls too, is there's a stand of palm or palmetto bushes in between the hedges in front of the Steak and Shake, and that is run calls there where they'll have been sleeping and somebody will call for them and they have their signs there, and normally there's an odor of one form or another.
Are you talking about an odor of urination?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and these are known panhandlers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you yourself, when not in uniform, I'm making an assumption here, ever been aggressively panhandled? And what I mean by that, I'll define it for purposes of your testimony, as including but not limited to, as in the proposed ordinance, of when an individual's been panhandled, refuses, and then the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition?
Yes, sir, I do.
Have you ever yourself, when not in uniform, been aggressively panhandled?
I have not personally, but I have witnessed it when I leave work and I'm heading home.
Okay. Please tell the commission any one incident that you can remember of somebody, of your firsthand observation, of being aggressively panhandled as the proposed ordinance and I have defined it.
I have to go by that same intersection to make the right-hand turn onto International Speedway to head towards home.
ISB and Nova?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
And as I go past there, it's a regularly seen occurrence. They'll be out walking in between the cars and trying to solicit funds, and then when they get no the first time, they make little palm fronds or make art out of palm fronds, trying to get them to buy that from them while they're holding signs or panhandling.
And what happens when, as you've observed, when they get refused?
I've seen them shake the palm frond stuff at people. I've seen them yell. I've seen them shake their hands at people.
Have you ever seen them bang on windows?
I have not witnessed that, no.
Have you ever seen them spit?
I have not seen that myself, no.
How many people work, Lieutenant Pikert, under your direction?
It depends on our staffing level for the day. No matter what, I have an engine crew with at least a driver, engineer, and a firefighter assigned with me. And then if the rescue truck is up, that's an additional 2 personnel. And if we were able to bring the tower truck in service, that's another. So I could have upwards of 5 or 6 personnel working underneath me for the day.
Have you ever had, during your time as a lieutenant or actually working for the fire department, any of other co-employees who also work for the fire department ever describe any instances of either panhandling or aggressive panhandling to you?
The crew I was assigned with yesterday, when I was on duty, We were responding to an emergency call and had to turn left on International Speedway at the intersection of Nova and ISB. And there were 2 or 3 panhandlers working the intersection there at the time. Traffic was building up. The light had just turned, but there was a delay in them moving, so we had to hop the curb with the fire truck so we could actually make the turn onto Nova or onto International Speedway.
Does the actions of the panhandlers, in your professional opinion as a firefighter, Lieutenant Piker, interfere with your ability as a firefighter to render emergency assistance?
Well, using that same example from
And you heard the fire chief's testimony about that,
yes,
didn't
sir.
you? Okay, go ahead.
But using the same example from yesterday, again, now we are having to hop the curb, which now we're going against traffic, which is even more dangerous for the not only the people on the road, but for us. And it slows us down because now we can't go as fast as we would if we're going with the flow of traffic and being able to be careful about it. We're having to make sure that all the audible devices are as loud as we can get them. And hope that nobody's not paying attention as they make the turn and what they think would be their normal travel lane. It delays us as far as getting on scene, and depending on what the nature of the call is, they told us in school, time is muscle for cardiac events. So.
Lieutenant Piker, I don't have any further questions of you except to ask what I'll just say is a catch-all question. Is there any incidents that I haven't questioned you about, either as what you've been told by some of the people who've worked with you or for you, or what the chief related, or what you as a private citizen have encountered with respect to the effects of panhandling on citizens, tourists, business owners that you would like to relate to the commission?
Only thing that I can relate as far as that goes is having heard his testimony earlier, and that I have noticed since they moved me over to Station 5 about a year ago, there is, I had never noticed the security guard that they had over at Krispy Kreme before, and I have noticed that it seems most of the panhandlers stay more off of that intersection and are towards the Steak and Shake side now than there used to be.
Thank you. I'm going to tender you now, Lieutenant Piker, to the commission for any questions that you all may have.
More questions?
Could I ask you, Mr. Khan, a question?
Sure.
They mentioned something about roses out of palm fronds or something. If they shake a palm frond in your face after you have refused, is that aggressive panhandling?
Pursuant to the ordinance, yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay.
Any action taken after the refusal, and there's a number of different things that are detailed in the ordinance in order to keep this, believe it or not, brief as possible. Okay, I basically didn't go into every time I talked about aggressive panhandling the precise definition, but yes, there's a number of different things.
I've heard that some of them cup their hands, don't have signs, just cup their hands. Is that considered panhandling?
Yes, it is. Depending upon how it's received. Let me dramatically show you something. Let's say it's pouring outside, and somebody cups their hands. Okay, you can interpret that a bunch of different ways. Okay, but what I'm saying is that ordinarily speaking, if somebody comes up to you, somebody actually asked me that on a break. Basically, if the receiving party, the person to be panhandled, objectively believes, a reasonable person would believe that that is a solicitation. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Lieutenant, thank you very much for your testimony.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to call now driver engineer Greg Brocksmith.
I do.
Driver engineer, would you please state your full name for the record?
It's Gregory Francis Brocksmith.
And by whom are you employed?
The City of Daytona Beach Fire Department.
And as what?
I am a driver engineer.
And how long have you been a driver engineer?
Coming up on 3 years now.
And are you also an EMT?
Yes, sir.
And would you please describe the commission, what's the distinction between an EMT and a certified paramedic?
An EMT has the basic life skills. More short of it, a paramedic can do intravenous, push drugs, and do intubation, oxygen therapy. Basically, they can do more invasive than EMTs.
Okay. Now, where did you get your training to be a firefighter, a driver engineer?
Flagler Adult Ed.
How long have you worked for the city of Daytona Beach as a firefighter?
I'm coming up on my 11th year.
Other than being a driver engineer, firefighter Brock Smith, what have you worked as for the city of Daytona Beach as a firefighter?
Just a firefighter prior to being a driver engineer.
And a driver engineer does, I could assume, just what the name seems, but just tell the commission exactly what you do.
It's a self-explanatory. I'm the driver of the fire engine. I make sure that all the mechanical and everything else works on the truck, as well as the equipment, make sure it's up to par and where it's supposed to be.
Now, driver engineer, in your 11 years as a firefighter for the city of Daytona Beach, have you had the occasion to firsthand see the effect of panhandling?
I have.
Okay. First of all, we'll start with you as a civilian, in essence, out of uniform. I'm going to define aggressive panhandling, as you've heard tonight,
yes, sir,
as including but not limited to, because the proposed ordinance goes into this quite in detail, but as when a person's panhandled and refused that the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Have you ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes, sir, I have.
Would you please describe to the commission what took place on any one instance?
The one instance that really stands out to me where I was aggressively panhandled, I was leaving work, so I was in my civilian clothes in my car. I was going up to International Speedway in Ridgewood. I was a couple cars back from the light. It was a red light. And my wife's a school teacher, so I was texting her in the morning, just letting her know I was getting off shift, heading home, how my daughter was and how everything else was. And I had some guy come up, knock on my window, scared the daylights out of me, and put his sign right up against my window.
And what did you do?
I just shoot him away, told him to get away.
And did he leave at that point?
At that point, after I rolled out the window and really got angry, he did.
Okay. Aside from being aggressively panhandled, how long have you lived in Daytona Beach?
I actually do not live in Daytona Beach.
Okay.
I did live in Daytona Beach. I'm a graduate of Fado Lopez High School.
Okay.
Which is here in Daytona Beach. I've been in this area 96, 23 years.
In your time in this area, have you been not aggressively panhandled, but have you been panhandled?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And that just means that a person approaches you for money and you say no, and that's what we've defined as panhandling. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever firsthand on any call that you attended involving a panhandler, have you ever seen any evidence of public urination or public defecation incidental to the panhandler, meaning that you attended a call and on the panhandler's person, a known panhandler, that you saw evidences, including odor or whatever, of either public defecation or public urination?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, please describe any one instance and has that been on more than one instance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Has that been numerous instances?
It's been numerous instances.
Okay. Would you please describe to the commission any one instance related to a known panhandler, driver engineer, that you can relate the evidence of either public defecation or public urination connected with the known panhandler?
Okay, one that really stands out in my mind is we were frequenting the Wawa, which is a business right over here, second business in from International Speedway Boulevard in Ridgewood. And we actually had a citizen come up to us while we were in there saying that they saw someone laying down in the grass behind the business on the Seagrave side. So we go over to investigate, and the gentleman was laying there. He had a common odor associated with the consumption of alcohol, and he had urinated himself, and he actually had a sign near him that said, "Why lie? I need a beer."
So, okay, and what do you do when you have been called and have been to a call relating to a known panhandler, and you see either public urination or public defecation? We'll get to the breakdown in a minute.
Yes, sir.
What do you do as far as the cleanup of such public urination or public defecation, if anything?
Well, at this point, he was in the grass, so it probably soaked into the ground, but it was mostly in his pants and soaked into his own clothing, so there wasn't much cleanup with that.
In any other times, can you recall, because you said there were numerous, that you can relate to known panhandlers, incidences of public urination, meaning the urine is on their person or around where they are, or public defecation? In any one of those other instances, what do you do, if anything, to clean that up?
Like I said, in those situations that I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall that it is your department or you as an EMT that has cleaned it up?
We've had, yes.
Okay. Do you ever call the Department of Public Works or anyone else to clean it up?
No, sir.
Okay. In any one instance regarding a call that you undertook with regard to a known panhandler, and you've already related one, well, let me start and ask this way. What do you do, what sort of calls are these with known panhandlers? What are you called to do?
It varies. It varies in different. It could be a person down or unknown or investigate the person. It's usually a passerby who calls.
Okay. And it's just because of your experience that you can relate that they're known panhandlers, or also because they have signs or other things?
We drive by intersections. We can notice the people and we can recognize them.
Okay. I'll ask you the same catch-all question I've asked previously. Other than what you've testified to here tonight, do you have any other incidents regarding the effect of panhandling that you wish to tell the commission at this point?
Well, like I said, I've been in this area for 26 years. I have a lot of friends in this area, and I know the majority of my friends, I grew up in, well, I didn't grow up here, but I went to high school here. A lot of my friends, Palo Lopez, Seabreeze, Mainland. I was a baseball player, and a lot of them will not frequent this area. They'd rather go to St. Augustine, Jacksonville, or Orlando due to that reason.
Well, hopefully not St. Augustine due to the testimony.
No.
Okay. Any event. I don't have anything further. Driver engineer, I'm going to tender you to the commission for any questions they may have.
Does anyone have any questions for driver? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. BROCK-SMITH.
Okay, next, Mr. Mayor, for additional testimony that is unconnected to his last testimony on December the 12th, Officer Thomas.
Yes, I do.
Officer Thomas, will you please give your full name to the commission?
My name's Officer James S. Thomas, but I go by the initials JT.
And you have testified previously at the evidentiary hearing regarding this proposed ordinance, specifically on December the 12th, have you not?
At length, yes.
Okay, and you were put under oath, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I want to talk to you about some specific points in the ordinance. I don't know whether you have it. Do you have a copy of it? You probably don't. Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, but I will ask you the questions. Regarding certain of the buffered areas proposed, for example, 20 feet in any direction of any bus or trolley stop, or 20 feet in any direction of an automated teller machine, or 20 feet in any direction of any parking meter or parking pay station owned by the city, or prohibited from outdoor dining areas. So my question is, as to those areas or like areas, what is the commonality in those areas that renders them necessitous of having such a buffer, in your professional opinion, Officer Thomas?
Well, I think those areas you are a captive audience. If you're walking down the street and somebody says, "Hey, can I get a quarter?" you can say, "No, I don't have any money." Just keep walking and going about your business. If you're at the ATM, if you're at an outside dining, you're at a bus stop bench, you're there for a reason that's keeping you there. If you're at the bus stop bench, you can't get up and walk away when somebody's giving you a hard time. You have to stay there and wait for the bus. If you're at the ATM, you have to wait and get your money. So you're pretty much trapped at that location with somebody who's panhandling from you and also knows that, like, if you're at the ATM or a place like that, that you're going to have money. You can't use the excuse, or it's more difficult for you to use the excuse of, "I can't give you any money."
Okay. Now, Officer Thomas, there's a particular, do you understand that the proposed ordinance has a buffered area around, and I'll ask you to describe the area as best you can in a minute, around the speedway where there's two bridges across, I think ISB, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Roughly.
It's also another one in front of Emeryville College.
Okay.
Further down.
Across ISB as well?
Well, across Clyde Morris. But
okay. The two bridges around the speedway are across ISB, correct?
Yes.
And if you can you describe roughly where they are?
They cross north to south, International Speedway Boulevard, in front of the speedway itself.
Okay.
And they're used for getting people across Speedway Boulevard during the events where the road itself is usually gridlocked.
Now, do these bridges have themselves ingress and egress areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Each side.
And is there only one entrance or exit way to each bridge?
It's pretty much a funnel getting in and out, yes.
Okay. Now, talk to me about, as a police officer, with regard to the difficulty of control, enforcement, safety, the unique or the nature of the speedway. Describe me, is it in fact a unique environment, and or what makes it so?
Well, that and the bridges. I can give you that answer for just the bridges or the whole speedway itself.
Go ahead. Go ahead to do either.
Okay, well, the bridges themselves, before they were put in, we had a place called The Point, which was Bill France Boulevard and Speedway Boulevard. And that was the place where most pedestrians crossed the street. That's also the place where we kept having police officers get run over trying to start and stop traffic. One former police officer, Mike Lester, must have been hit there 4 times because he was in charge of everybody else there at that intersection. So because of that, they built the pedestrian bridges. They're not just him, but safety in general. They built the pedestrian bridges to get people across the street because the speedway itself, the grandstands hold 101,500 people. The infield holds over another 100,000, and during an event there, they could have 250,000 people there, 250,000 people there. Let's say roughly half of them are parked north of Speedway Boulevard on Speedway property. They will take a shuttle to the pedestrian bridges, cross the pedestrian bridges to get across Speedway Boulevard and onto the Speedway property. So you've got a lot of people getting across that bridge. Like I said, if there's an event going on, it's a funnel getting into the walkway to get across there, yes.
And have you seen or been told about panhandlers who frequent that area of the bridges?
Well, I've seen it myself, yes, but they've been a problem, and they're a problem during the races, and somebody from the Speedway will call us and say, we're having a hard time getting these people across here as it is. We don't need somebody trying to stop every individual person and harassing them, yes.
Now, you mentioned that the Speedway itself can, during race events, have 250,000 people that is gathered in and around it, correct?
Right.
There's what I say is a relatively astounding fact, is there not, regarding, again, the unique nature of Daytona Beach's Speedway? Could you relate that to the commission?
Well, last time I was up here, you asked me to speak about why Daytona was unique, and we said there's not another city till you get to Myrtle Beach that has a boardwalk and all this.
Yes.
We also have the Speedway, and the Speedway is easily the biggest landowner in the city of Daytona Beach. It's the grandstands I spoke of that hold 101,500 people.
Yes.
When they were building that, I went there to talk to them, and I was thrown back by the figure that the construction supervisor gave me that said from end to end, he was saying how hard it was. And I said, how hard is it? It's a flat thing. And he goes, no, it's not flat. They have to allow for 7.5 inches of curvature for the curve of the earth, for those grandstands to actually curve, and they can't do it all in one place. They have to break it up. So that's how big it actually is, yes.
They have to allow for the curvature of the earth.
Yes.
Officer Thomas, I don't have any further questions for you. Your testimony is in addition to that which you rendered on December the 12th, 2018. So I'm going to again tender you to the commission for any questions that they may have.
Do we have any questions? No questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer. Okay, my next witness, and next to last, is Officer Bergeron. Oops, I'm messing that up. And what I'd like to cue up, Charles or Ed, is the exhibit that we had last time, which is that Officer Thomas presented. It is the PowerPoint. We could cue that up. That's, okay, thank you.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony about the discussion is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Would you please, Officer, give your full name to the City Commission?
It's Brady Bergeron.
And please spell that for the record.
First name Brady, last name Bergeron.
Okay. And where are you presently employed, sir?
The City of Daytona Beach at the Police Department.
And how long have you been so employed?
Just about 3.5 years.
How long have you been a police officer in general? The same amount of time?
3.5 years, yes.
Okay. And where did you get educated and trained, Officer Bergeron, to be a police officer?
At Daytona State College.
And in your 3 years as a police officer for Daytona Beach, what duties have you had? Well, first of all, let me do the most current first. What do you serve as now, Officer Bergeron?
Right now, I'm on the problem-oriented policing units.
And we've heard that testified as the POP unit?
Yes, sir.
And would you please describe what that means to you as far as your duties? What is the POP unit, in other words?
Well, in short, I would describe it as it's a unit that's not at will of dispatchers, so we have a little extra free time to handle anything. We're a citywide unit, but mainly we identify the chronic issues that might plague the city, and we can use unconventional but legal ways to solve these issues.
Is one of the issues panhandling?
Yes, sir, at the moment.
How many people are in the POP unit, Officer Bergeron?
We've had some vacancies recently, but 5 right now, I think.
Now, in your career, in your 3-year career as a police officer, have you had the opportunity to firsthand observe the effects of panhandling?
Yes, sir.
Now, we'll start by, you've been here for the entire testimony tonight, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you've heard my definition that I use for aggressive panhandling, correct?
Yes, sir.
It includes but is not limited to, because as I was speaking to the commission, and that it includes but is not limited to items that are actually further listed in the proposed ordinance, but I've defined it for tonight as when a person's panhandled and they refuse, that the panhandler persists. Do you understand that definition?
Yes,
personally, when you're out of uniform, have you ever yourself been aggressively panhandled?
Yes, sir.
Would you please describe to the commission any incidents that you could recall in which you yourself personally were aggressively panhandled?
The most recent one I can think of was at International Speedway Boulevard and Nova Road, right in front of the Krispy Kreme, when I was approached by Roy Hinch, who's a known panhandler. I don't think he recognized me. I was in regular clothes in my regular car. He approached my car, was looking in my window. He was in the traffic lanes. I didn't look at him. He kept knocking on my window.
asking me for money, and then the light changed and I drove off.
Have you ever? How long have you been living in and around the Daytona Beach area?
22 years.
Okay. In the 22 years you've been here, have you ever been panhandled? And what I mean by that is not aggressively panhandled, just somebody come up and asking you for money or giving them articles of value.
Yes.
Okay. In different parts of the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever, while in civilian clothes, been aggressively or otherwise panhandled on the boardwalk?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we can put up that notebook, that PowerPoint. You've reviewed this PowerPoint, have you not?
Yes, sir.
And there are people in this PowerPoint that have been testified to about previously that you yourself know are panhandlers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want you to, page by page, and we'll give you the pages as we come up, identify the page, and then if we can get to that page, testify as to who the panhandler is. Which page now?
Well, these are not numbered, so
okay.
we'll
Okay.
come through this. This fella right here.
Okay.
This is William Lindsay.
It's not numbered, but visualize, if you can state for the record, this already is an exhibit to these proceedings, offered and accepted on December the 12th. Read the top so we can get who you're talking about for the verbal record.
Well, this right here is William Lindsay. This is at City Island Park, like it says up top, outside the bathrooms. And it says, Officer Thomas has seen this subject panhandling in the downtown area several times. Here, in the photo to the right, he is shown to be urinating in City Island Park just prior to his arrest for doing so.
And do you yourself, Officer Bertrand, know that William Lindsay is a known panhandler?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next.
This fella right here. This would be Ron Alford.
And again, for the verbal record, which is being taken down by a court reporter, please identify by the way you did before. In this PowerPoint presentation, just reading this into the record.
Well, right here, this is Ron Alford. This is at International Speedway Boulevard in Ridgewood, which I believe, I'm sorry, it's Beach Street. This is Ridgewood, it looks like Beach Street. Mr. Ron Alford is a well-known panhandler who prefers to panhandle at the intersection of International Speedway and Ridgewood. Officer Thomas witnessed Mr. Alford urinating in public and from a vehicle in traffic, took the photo to the right just before arresting him. So I guess it says he likes to panhandle there. This is like Speedway and Beach on the northwest corner. There's a little park there. I don't think it even has a name.
Okay, and you yourself, Officer Bergeron, of your own personal observation and knowledge, know this individual, Mr. Alford, as a panhandler?
Yes.
Okay, next.
Yeah, this is that little spot that Mr. Alford was seen urinating at, right here. So our next subject, this is Miss Stephanie Bailey.
Okay, and if you would read into the record what that page says in the PowerPoint.
These photos show a known panhandler defecating on a riverside pavilion in City Island Park. They were taken by a deputy on the 3rd floor of the City Island Courthouse. The courthouse and its restrooms were open to the public at the time these photos were taken. So this is a pier that people can fish off of. It's just behind the courthouse annex on City Island.
And this individual, what was her name again?
Stephanie Bailey.
And she is to you a known panhandler?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next.
Let's see. Yeah, let me find this. So this appears to be the 300 block of West International Speedway, right in front of the abandoned gas station on the northwest corner. Right here, I don't know if this laser pointer works, how that works, but that gentleman in the gray tank top, that would be Jude Ortiz. Miss Stephanie Bailey is to his left. That is the woman that was just defecating at City Island. And Mr. George Rowland is on the right side in the black hat and the blue shirt.
Are these all three known panhandlers?
Absolutely.
And is there a canister in that photo that you can identify? And I don't know whether you can or not.
Yep, actually, where the blue backpack is, there's a palm frond thing, and then I don't know if anybody can see it, but right where the grass and sidewalk is right there, that's a like keyboard cleaner. They clean keyboards with. They'll suck that in and get high with it.
Is that? Do they have a common street term for that?
Huffing, I think they call it.
Okay. Next. Oh, wait a second. Let me back up. Yes. So the three individuals, I think I asked this, so excuse the repetition, are individuals known panhandlers to you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, this is the same group of people in the middle. The left side, you can see more known panhandlers. That's at Speedway in Ridgewood, the 300 block of West Speedway right there. The only one I can identify by name is on the bottom left of the pink backpack. Her name is Terry Clemens, a.k.a. Mama T.
And is she a known panhandler to you?
Yes. And she's also a K2 dealer, like synthetic cannabis, spice, whatever you want to call it. It's real nasty stuff. People die from it. But she's a known K2 dealer also.
Has she ever been, how do you know that it's called K2?
That's one of the slangs.
Okay, for synthetic cannabis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you know that she's a synthetic cannabis dealer?
Well, based off of narcotics investigations, our agency has bought K2 from her. She'll admit it that she has sold it in the past. She probably still does, but she says she doesn't anymore. But she will 100% admit that she has.
Okay. And she's a known panhandler to you?
Yes.
Okay, next.
Don't know this one, but this next fella, this would be at Oak Ridge and Atlantic. This would be Mr. Dakota Coakley. This says, drivers have every right to be fearful of strangers who approach their cars at intersections. They could easily be carjackers posing as panhandlers. This is right here at Oak Ridge and Atlantic in the 600 block of Oak Ridge, right outside the new parking garage.
And who's that individual?
Dakota Coakley.
Coakley?
Yes, sir.
How do you spell that?
Coakley.
Okay, is he a known panhandler to you?
Yes, sir.
Now, professionally, I'll stop you here and ask that that's Officer Thomas's PowerPoint and Officer Thomas's statement that, quote, drivers have every right to be fearful of strangers who approach their cars at intersections. They could easily be carjackers posing as panhandlers, end quote. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with that assessment professionally?
Absolutely.
Have you been aware of any individuals like Mr. Coakley or other panhandlers who getting in the way of traffic by going out and stopping or attempting to stop cars and posing a danger to pedestrians or you attempting to do police work? Are you aware of any of those types of individuals?
Absolutely.
Would you please describe anything you know, any anecdote or personal observation that you know of where a known panhandler to you went out in a road, obstructed traffic, and was a danger to you doing your police work?
Sometimes traffic gets backed up from them being out on the road, and then the light will turn green, or people are trying to give them money, or they're in the middle of the road. And just like the fire department said, if you're driving an emergency to a call, sometimes it takes a little bit longer for these people to get out of the way because there's pedestrians walking in between travel lanes. Also, he personally likes to lean up against like the light poles and the trees and stuff and block the sidewalk. One of our big things on the POP unit is bicycle patrol. Sometimes you don't want to be out in the middle of the road riding your bicycle. You might need to use the sidewalk, or you can't really use the sidewalk if he's sitting there blocking it. He likes to twist roses is what his thing is. So he uses the sidewalk as his bench and workstation.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever, on a call on your professional duty, ever seen incidences of known panhandlers present in these in this PowerPoint or otherwise, evidence of either public urination or public defecation by them?
Yes.
Would you please describe to the commission, and you can name them if you want, any incidences that you have seen personally of no panhandlers either publicly urinating or defecating in the city of Daytona Beach?
As far as defecating, I've never personally witnessed it. Urinating, I've seen plenty of times. The one that's freshest in my mind would be John Allen. I saw him 2 months ago, maybe, behind the Ice House, which is a convenience store. I think it's 310 West International Speedway. He was urinating on the fence that divides the Ice House and the Burger King right there at 112 North Ridgewood. He was urinating on the fence right there, and I saw his genitalia, saw him urinating, all of it, more than I wanted to see.
In this incident itself, in that Burger King, did you observe at the same time or other times children and families going into that Burger King?
Absolutely, there's always children and families there.
And you said there was a fence between Burger King and what?
And the Ice House, which is a convenience store that's adjacent to it on Speedway Boulevard.
Again, did you see children and families going into the Ice House?
Not from the Ice House, no.
Okay.
It's like a bigger store.
All right. Did you? Okay. Okay. At the time, if you can recall, at the time that you observed him urinating, did you see were people frequenting the Burger King?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Next, if you have any other.
I don't know because these next slides they include pictures we've already gone over.
Okay.
So I don't know how much more I could go off of. These are just like mug shots
of the people that we've already talked about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go back and see. There are 3 of them, and very quickly identify them again as to the people involved.
You want me to go back more?
Well, I'm saying Jacqueline Smith. Do you know her?
I do not know her.
Okay. Next. Do you know her?
I do not.
Okay, next.
I do know him. That is Ron Alford. He was pictured earlier urinating at Speedway and Beach.
Okay. Okay.
Looks like just some intersection photos of panhandlers congregated.
Do you know them?
Let me get a closer look. Based on this picture, I can't identify any of them.
You cannot?
No,
That's
sir.
at the intersection, that picture of Ridgewood and International Speedway, correct?
Yes, this would be the northeast side, right in front of the Popeyes, obviously.
Anybody, what's next? Bless you.
This would be Jude Ortiz, Stephanie Bailey, and George Rowland.
That was a photo that we saw.
Yes, sir.
Next.
Dakota Coakley, once again, we just talked
Okay.
about.
Is that too far away for you to identify?
Let me look on the paper. Yeah, the quality's not good enough for me.
Okay,
to
next.
identify anybody. I do not know this fella's name. However, any morning or afternoon, you can go to Mason Avenue in Ridgewood and find him right in front of the Fast Lane Tobacco. He's there every day.
Known panhandler to you?
Yes, sir.
Now, is there a video in this PowerPoint that you can comment on to the commission?
I do not know if there's a video or not.
Was there an incidence of a needle that was taken from a panhandler?
Yes, the body-worn camera video. Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you please, I don't know whether you can find it quickly in this PowerPoint, maybe with the help of Officer Thomas you can, but I just want to
Yeah, is that is there a video associated with that?
If you click on it.
And I'm sorry, for the record and for the court report, can you make sure to speak a little louder?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Is this it? I
Thank
just
you,
click
Madam
on it.
Clerk.
I'm new to this PowerPoint thing. Here, you can have it.
Who took that video that we're looking at right
This
now?
is a body-worn camera video from Officer Steve Catalano.
After Officer Catalano, and he, if you recall, testified on December the 12th, correct?
Yes.
And what part did you have in this video, or the taking of it, or the arrest of this individual?
I don't know if I'm in this video, actually. I do remember this. I was there. I transported him because Officer Catalano was on a bicycle. I do remember there was some items, some contraband found on him. As far as what it was, I do not remember.
Okay. Officer Bergeron, I don't have any further questions for you at this point, other than asking you if there's any other incidents of panhandling, either aggressive or otherwise. Well, have you ever been called to a panhandler incident where, in addition to what you've seen in this video, that you have seen needles or razor blades or other edged instruments?
Yes.
Okay, please describe anyone anecdote to the commission of that?
Well, the boardwalk is a popular place for them to panhandle and try and give out these palm frond made roses. And the way they cut them is with scissors, knives, razor blades, and they'll often leave the blade out and leave it on the sidewalk while they make their roses. There's people, children, animals walking all up and down the boardwalk right, within feet of these edged tools.
Have you ever seen in any panhandling incident that you've been called to discarded needles?
Yes.
Where do you find these on the panhandlers? Do you find them on their person, backpacks, or where?
You can find them in their pockets, backpacks, in their immediate vicinity. They're everywhere.
I don't have any further questions. I'm going to tender Officer Bergeron to the commission for any questions.
I have a question. Officer Bergeron, you said that the POP unit has had some folks have left.
Yes.
Would panhandling or anything that they may have seen have anything to do with that?
No, not it. One was promoted. Another was given a lateral transfer. Well, I guess there's only been 2 left. So at least it was 5 or 6. So not any direct reason because of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions. Thank you, Officer Bergeron.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Officer. My last witness of the evening is Officer Ashley Rossi.
Drinking all this water.
I do.
Would you please state your full name, Officer Rossi, to the commission?
Officer Ashley Rossi,
And where are you presently employed, Officer Rossi?
the City of Daytona Beach with the Police Department.
And how long have you been so employed?
4 years.
Presently, what do you do for a living within the police department?
Presently, I am assigned to the traffic unit as the traffic homicide investigator.
Where were you trained as a police officer, ma'am?
Daytona State College.
When did you become a police officer?
Late 2015.
Is the only place you've worked as a police officer for the city of Daytona Beach?
Yes, it is.
For the 4 years, other than being in the traffic unit, where else have you served for the city of Daytona Beach as a police officer, ma'am?
I was assigned to Delta West and Delta East and the POP unit, problem-oriented policing.
How would you describe, and you heard Officer Bergeron describe what the POP unit does, how would you describe it to the commission?
I would say the same thing. We do use a little bit of unconventional methods. Part of my job was homeless outreach. I was dressed down. I was easier to talk to when I was out talking to these individuals. So something like that is not exactly what a normal officer would do, but it gave me the ability to be less intimidating.
And when you were dressed down, that is, you wouldn't be in uniform?
Correct.
Okay. How did you identify? Did you have a badge that you identified yourself as?
I did. I had a badge. I had a shirt on that identified me as a police officer. I also had a badge embroidered on the shirt and a name tag.
Okay. Now, let's go back and review some of your earlier duties. You said you were in Delta West as what? A patrol officer, a bike officer, what?
As a patrol officer, yes, sir.
Okay. On a patrol officer, did you occupy a vehicle as that?
I did. A marked vehicle.
Okay. Did you ever do any bike patrol?
No bike, but footwork.
Okay. Now, for Delta West, please describe to the commission what in the city of Daytona Beach constitutes Delta West.
Delta West is from the railroad tracks west, and my primary zone was 43 zone, so it's Nova Road, International Speedway, Seneca, Martin Luther King, Orange Avenue, several other streets.
And would you please describe for the commission what is Delta East?
Delta East is everything from the railroad tracks to the water, to the beach.
Does that include the boardwalk?
It does. It includes the boardwalk, Seabreeze Boulevard, Oak Ridge Boulevard, A1A, Ridgewood, just to name a few.
So in general, in your duties in the past 4 years, is it fair to say that those duties have covered literally the entire town of Daytona Beach?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I want to ask you generally, you've heard my definition of aggressive panhandling, which in shorthand is when a person is panhandled and is solicited for money or things of value and refuses, that the panhandler persists. Did you hear that?
Yes, sir, I did.
And do you understand that definition?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. So how long have you lived in Daytona Beach?
30 years.
30?
Yes.
Okay. In your time in Daytona Beach, including but not limited to your time in the police force, have you ever been aggressively panhandled?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Please describe and I'm talking about in your civilian clothes.
Okay.
Okay. Please describe to the commission any one incident that details that aggressive panhandling.
There's one that I can think of right off the top of my head. I was in my personal car driving on Mason Avenue, trying to go to the Beachside Precinct located at 510 Harvey Avenue. And again, as Officer Bergeron stated, or other officers stated, didn't recognize me. I had a gentleman come up and knock on my window. I had my music turned up, and I just thought that I would ignore him. And he continued to knock on my window extremely hard to the point where I rolled down my window and said, "What do you want?" And he asked me for money, or one of these. I believe it was you that mentioned the cupping hands. I said, I don't have anything. And
did you understand? I'll break in 1 second. When that person cupped his or her hands, did you understand that to be panhandling?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Eventually, the light changed, and I just left. So.
Okay. Now, in addition to that, in your time at Daytona Beach, off duty, have you been panhandled? Meaning that not aggressively, but just somebody coming up and asking you for money?
Numerous amounts of times.
Okay. Now let's go to you on duty. Okay. In your professional role as a police officer for the city of Daytona Beach, have you ever had a first-hand ability to observe the effects of panhandling?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Have you ever seen a citizen, a tourist, a business owner, employer, employee ever aggressively panhandle?
Yes, I have.
Okay, please describe to the commission how many times have you seen that done?
I wouldn't be able to count. Numerous amounts of times.
Okay, then pick one in your mind and describe an incident of aggressive panhandling to the commission.
Another one that sticks out in my mind is I was on the boardwalk. I was doing just normal walk. I believe it's around 10 o'clock.
Were you wearing your uniform at that
I
point?
was, yes.
Thank you.
I was wearing the gray uniform.
Okay.
So fully identifiable. I stood back and watched a group of panhandlers approach what appeared to be a group of tourists, in my opinion. Asked them for money, had the roses, said that they would give them to them in lieu of a donation. When they walked away and they said they didn't have any money or didn't have anything to offer to them, they walked down the boardwalk, walked back to the same group and said, "Come on, we know you have something." And just continued to badger them to the point where I went over and I said, "Look, this is done. We need to go."
Have you ever, in your experience as a police officer, seen any effect of panhandling on businesses, meaning that customers of a business that were aggressively or otherwise panhandling that you could visibly see or were told affected adversely the business?
Yes, and the one that's been brought up mostly tonight is the Krispy Kreme.
Okay, and tell me what your firsthand observation of that, or what you know about the effect of panhandling has had on Krispy Kreme, of your own personal knowledge.
Of my own personal knowledge, it's just been people that have been on the business, panhandlers that have been on the business, but so much so to the extent that they had to hire private security.
And you heard the testimony about that tonight?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Did you know that before that?
No, I did not.
Okay. In any call that you made professionally as a police officer, Officer Rossi, have you had occasion to see, in relation to panhandlers, known panhandlers to you, the incidents of either public urination or public defecation?
Yes, I have.
On how many instances?
Not as many as the panhandling, but I have seen that many times.
Would you give the commission any one instance of the observation that you saw with a known panhandler regarding any public urination or public defecation?
Public urination on Seabreeze again, as Officer Bergeron had stated, more than I wanted to see. Genitalia, everything. Defecation at the new parking garage at Oak Ridge and A1A. I watched it via security footage. A gentleman back up, lower his pants, back his rear end up to the wall, and defecated against the wall to the point where it splattered across the wall.
Was this individual that you watched on the security film a known panhandler to you?
Yes, he was.
Do you know his name?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Have you seen incidents of panhandling that, for example, what you've seen in the? Have you looked at the PowerPoint? The
Yes.
PowerPoint. Is there anybody in that PowerPoint that you can identify? Do you know?
There's a few people in here, yes.
Okay. Can you quickly go to them? If you want to use this, you can.
No, just I know Mama T.
Okay.
Stephanie Bailey. I don't think the other ones I haven't seen.
Okay.
But been in contact with them, yes.
Have you ever seen in your professional duties, ma'am, an incident relating to panhandling, either with panhandlers going out in the middle of the road or whatever, that in your professional opinion would impede your ability as a police officer to render aid to a citizen, tourist, or other individual in Daytona Beach?
Without a doubt.
Okay, please relate any anecdote that you can recall of an impedance of your ability to, or another police officer's ability to offer aid to any of the foregoing.
One of our major intersections is International Speedway Boulevard in Ridgewood. I actually reviewed the traffic cameras as a part of my job for traffic homicide. And you can see that the traffic traveling southbound on International Speedway has the green light. A gentleman walks out in front of the traffic, unfortunately gets hit, and is flung approximately 75 feet into the middle of the intersection. And that is not the first occasion that I've seen. It's been, unfortunately, many deaths that I've had to investigate as well.
Of individuals who were panhandling and getting in the way of an intersection?
Yes.
Okay. Does that, when that happens, I mean, it's unfortunate no matter who, does that also, if there were a police call, render it difficult for the police to get around such an unfortunate incident?
It does. It makes it very difficult. We're trying to get to whoever is in need of help, and whether it be the cars don't know what to do because there's somebody in the road and they see the lights coming behind us, or the panhandler themselves is in the road and we have to be cognitive of that. We're trying to get somewhere to help somebody. We can't help somebody if we in turn get into a vehicle collision. Now you have to send 2 units.
Right. Officer Rossi, I don't have any further questions except for my usual catch-all question tonight. Is there any other incidents of your own personal observation as a police officer or in private regarding the effects of panhandling on the citizens, tourists, employers, employees, business owners of Daytona Beach that you would like to relate to the commission?
The main one for me would have to be the traffic. You have somebody that steps into the middle of the road, this car moves over, then another car moves over, and then you have a domino effect, and now we have a traffic congestion. Or, on a worst-case scenario, somebody gets hit and killed by a car, and then I have to go and tell that family member, I'm sorry that your loved one has passed away because they were involved in a traffic accident and they were struck by a vehicle. So traffic has to be the biggest one for me.
And have you had to do that in your job as a
yes,
traffic?
I have.
And you said you're in the traffic unit as a homicide investigator?
Traffic homicide investigator, yes, sir.
I don't have any further questions for this witness, Mr. Mayor and Commission, and I'd like to tender her to you, and then I have a final few points to make tonight, and then we'll conclude our evidentiary hearing.
Do we have any questions of ours? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Rossi. Thank you very much. Okay, we come to the end of another long evening. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your patience. Mm-hmm. And I have one point I want to make right now. My last exhibit, there may be another exhibit or two, okay, that I have at the first reading. The first reading is not going to entail any more testimony. But you heard me ask, for example, which I just heard about tonight, of the trespass. They were about 2 inches thick from the Krispy Kreme general manager. I may present that also as a piece of evidence, period. But right now, for my last piece of evidence for tonight, I'm going to say what also will be a part of this record is the entire record for the ordinance of St. Augustine. And we have the opportunity and the privilege of making that a part of the record for us, for our ordinance. In other words, my record perhaps for St. Augustine reached 2,000 pages. It's 2,000 pages at the beginning. I think one of you asked me, what constitutes the 2,000 pages? Well, over the course of 2 hearings, December the 12th and tonight, I think you know. Okay? It's testimony of different witnesses at St. Augustine. It's the medical studies that were admitted in St. Augustine, which are much the same as the ones that that our physician, Dr. Miles, testified about. They were admitted in this one. It's emails and other things. It's affidavits. It's photos. And so our record here will include these. There are 3 books full of the record. Now, in order not to waste time and paper, because it's been my experience when submitting records, as we move further and further into the electronic age, they're scanned and then discarded. So what I've done is I've kind of overleaped it. And what I'm going to hand to the clerk is a flash drive that contains the 2,000 pages of the St. Augustine record that I will now put into evidence in support of us. So our record, if you count all of what we put into exhibits, is roughly 4,000 pages of testimony of other such things, including cases and medical studies, and I'm going to present this.
Thank you.
And lastly, I want to kind of end where I began before I was retained, Mr. Mayor, as well as beginning this evidentiary presentation by saying a couple of things. And this has to be emphasized. I'm here and I've been hired to protect everyone's rights. And I think you brought up at the very first time that I was hired, that includes but are not limited to the panhandlers' rights. And therefore, that they are going to be able to panhandle in the city of Daytona Beach, equivalent to, as a matter of fact, in greater percentage than even in St. Augustine, when they're able to panhandle in 94.5%, I may be plus or minus a percent. You heard Mr. Clary testify as the percentage. And I have to say that in doing this work, it's as essential that I protect their rights as anyone else. Because in the Schomburg case, for example, the Supreme Court has declared that panhandlers, that is solicitors, are constitutionally protected. And it's just like everybody else's rights. You know, it's the famous poet John Donne in his poem For Whom the Bell Tolls. They came for this group, nobody talked, so they took them away. They came for that group, nobody talked, so they took that away. And they came for the third group, and nobody spoke in defense, so they took them away. And then when they came for me, there was no one left. So everyone's rights are protected by this ordinance. And that's why we have the testimony, why I again applaud John Clary for the record that he has helped me amass. And when we focus on private property, if private property chooses to permit panhandling, they can. Okay? And there's only a certain level of rights, like what I would call a compelling state interest to protect our children, that could even go equivocally to I will say, be affected by that point. So that's why we have the buffers around schools, period, end of story. So I want to stop there, but also thank you all very much. It's been a privilege in my maybe 24 visits to your town, okay, to get to know it. But what's more important, to get to know you all, to get to know the city employees and the people that are your constituents. I've interviewed dozens of them and heard their stories, period. I've also heard the stories of panhandlers, from panhandlers. So These are all things that are factored into your ordinance. So the next time that you'll see me is on the 23rd, and all I'll be doing there is answering any questions that you may have about the ordinance, and that's it. But as far as the evidentiary presentation, with maybe a minor point or two, we're concluded. But I'll be glad right now, before we stop tonight, to answer any questions right now that any one of the commissioners has, or any one of you on the dais have.
Just quickly, is it also of value? Tammy Kaczynski testified at our last hearing. Sweet Mallory's down on Beach Street, who said she had a stack of trespass, warnings that have been issued to panhandlers. You asked for them from Krispy Kreme today. Do those have value as well?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, for reminding me of that. I do remember that. I will get in contact with Ms. Kaczynski because they do have value. Thank you for reminding me of that. I will take care of that, I promise you.
And the one thing is kind of a question, but I think it's really important that we kind of rehash real quickly that these buffers were not picked arbitrarily. And we've heard about 8 hours of testimony now as to why these particular areas were selected. And you just hit on one of trying to protect children by having buffers around the schools. Certainly, we've heard a lot of testimony tonight about the safety issues around intersections. Very dramatic testimony in the fire department testifying about the egresses, entrances and exits to different businesses. And I think it's an excellent rationale for what we're doing and really trying to protect the people who live, work, and play in Daytona Beach. And thank you for all the work you've done.
My pleasure. It's been a privilege serving the city. I've loved getting to know it, and it's been my privilege.
Do we have any other comments? I think Commissioner Gilliland has summarized my sentiments and all of our sentiments. We look forward to working to hopefully support something that will protect the interests of everyone involved.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you.